It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Hancock. Oh, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to do it this way because we're going to do it this way because we're going to do it this way. What? There is so much news going on that we got to get to it. Now, Frank is going to blow up if he doesn't get to express himself, whatever it is that he wants to do on what he wants to do. So what we're going to do is give Frank a little bit, whatever the news exploding all over the place, and oh my God, maybe Freedom's Phoenix, a news web portal, might have news. Maybe. Let's think about that. So you go freedomsphoenix.com. You can follow along, or you can look on the video that we're doing here of all the news that is going, because there's a lot of things that Donna, readers, listeners, constantly send us that the community thinks is the most important stuff. Well, we got, ceasefires and broken ceasefires and this, that, and everything. What is the context for all of that? We're going to discuss that. That's going to happen. But first, Frank's got to blow off the steam, man, or he's going to explode. So we're going to give Frank the mic first and say, all right, Frank, tell us what we need to know. You got to tell and do it, because then we get to the news and then we'll discuss that. Go, Dr. Frank.
Hey, thank you, Ernie, and welcome back, audience, to the Trump and Steen report. So, yeah, I'm just going to be real brief. I know Ernie and I like to do the news, and we're going to be reading through it, but he was unclear. He basically, we wanted to just do the news first, but I wanted to just be clear with Ernie that I was joking in the beginning when I thought I was going to be on in the morning. I was like thinking, boy, what the heck are we going to talk about today, Ernest, as a joke? As a joke, because, I mean, that's basically the first hour almost, I would assume, is what's been happening in the last week alone since we hung up 1 week ago on Thursday.
According to Frank.
So much has happened in 1 week as far as the Trump tweets and the Easter tweet and the back and forth. And, the geopolitics is astounding. We're living through history. I'm assuming that news is this. But Ernest wasn't clear about what all the news he's going to go over is. So I just want to let the audience know that I assume most of the news we will be talking about the world events. I know the news on Freedom's Phoenix also includes things on Bitcoin and all sorts of other things. Sometimes we can get bogged down into reading it for the first hour or so. But I can assure the audience, hopefully, you stick with the show, assuming that most of the news is, I hope, about what's happened in the last week, that we will get to it eventually when Ernie gets through all the news items. So anyway, that's all I wanted to comment. But yeah, it's been a hell of a week, a hell of a ride, and so much to, chat about, especially from a libertarian and a libertarian conservative perspective, and the fracturing of the conservative base, which there's so much to talk about. But go ahead, Ernie. Let's get into the news then.
All right. This is why I wanted, all this is in the context that many people don't see. This is why we use lamestream media so last century links on Freedom's Phoenix, the narrative that they're trying to push and the BS. And then, of course, we have countering stuff. It's a wide radar screen that is Freedom's Phoenix, and there's a reason. You are not in a silo. You're out in the world. They, them, those will use whatever media, internet, video, podcast, what hell, even RFK Jr. is starting his own podcast now so he can freaking get out what the hell is going on in Maha. So this is a view with the context of the situation around the world. We're going to get into a little bit more because it's very applicable right now. Not later, now. So I want to go over this real quick so that these are some of the subjects. Now, I will probably bring in over the hours whatever I want to say about something. I'm not going to expand too much on any of this. Just get this into the record, and then Frank will, oh my God, take notes, and he's a doctor, so maybe he'll be able to read them. And what we'll do is go ahead and what he thinks is the most important, needs to be expanded on, we'll go ahead and talk about those first. But this context of the entire world at war in one form or another right now. So that's why we're going to do it this way and should do it every way, every time. Anyway, so here we go. All right. Eligible U.S. men will be automatically registered for military draft pool beginning in December. This is U.S. Now, they do this in other countries and so on. Well, if you don't have enough men, we can't go and fight and attack people. So we got to have more, cannon fodder. Iran-United States ceasefire. Where are the ships? Okay, what's actually going on? Who's transferring? Who's getting to go? Who's not? Is there a ceasefire? Has it sustained itself? Now we got some sustainable things on the investigation on the food system. This Straits of Hormuz blocking has had a lot to do with different phosphates and fertilizers, and hydrocarbons are used to make fertilizers. Ammonia is a big thing. So all of a sudden, what about planting that's going on right now? You got planting, you got harvest. And those two times, man, it's a timing thing. You got to do it not later. Well, we got Joel Salatin that's going, well, you don't need all that chemical stuff. You need to start doing cover crops and re-nitrating the soil and doing kind of whatever. You don't need to get some animals and have a good system. Well, they're not ready yet. So this is why Trump administration did, well, we need some glyphosate, for a little longer, kind of. This is, man, we got to bite the bullet. Not being so freaking poison everybody. Now, breaking, Netanyahu terror attack on Lebanon destroys Trump's ceasefire. Now, as soon as they had the ceasefire, Israel just starts bombing the crap out of residential apartment areas in Beirut. It's not southern Lebanon. This is like central. And Lebanon is Christian. I don't know. I don't think they're a majority, but they've always had a Christian president for, 100 years. I mean, this has been, so when you're attacking Lebanon, you got a Jewish state attacking a Christian state, and because of why, and why Beirut. Especially after they got a ceasefire, Israel wants the war to continue to an end of, nuclear wars. And there's something weird going on, and there's reasons why, and we'll talk about that. Mass confusion in Trump administration over ceasefire. Zionists are melting down. Why? Why do they want this? What is going on? How did they trick us into this? Well, we're there now. Now we have a fire sale has gone on in U.S. office buildings, 90% off. I anticipated this back in 2007 and 8. I thought the commercial real estate, what's going on now, was going to happen back then. Well, they just, toxic waste went to the Fed, and they just bought it and kind of 100% one-to-one on whatever. We'll take all your toxic waste. And that's how they dealt with this before. Then they buy it back at pennies on the ouch, quit it. And now it's coming. Because now it's coming. What I thought was going to happen a decade ago, Now it's coming. They can't hold it off anymore. So that's going to be a thing. The CIA is now, they're in a battle with one of their own because they're going, look, there is an internal effort to oust Tulsi Gabbard. They do not want her there. And how she's been dealing with this Iran thing and, the guy underneath her that became a whistleblower and saying, what the hell? I mean, they, them, those, deep state, somebody, Israel, lobby, man, they do not like it. I wonder what's going to happen there. There's, and you got, well, we'll get into that a little bit. Bondi won't testify before House Oversight Committee over Epstein files. Well, maybe she will, maybe she won't. Maybe they'll make her. Why? What's going on? Who's doing what? Is it an Israel thing? Is it an Epstein thing? Is it, well, she don't want to do it? HHS Secretary Kennedy announces new podcast to spread Make America Healthy Again agenda, because he has to. Breaking exclusive. Marjorie Taylor Greene tells Alex Jones it's time to burn the Republican Party to the ground. They have been infiltrated so much that they are worse than useless. Well, that might have some conversation with Frank. California Supreme Court orders rogue sheriff to pause election fraud probe. There's a California sheriff that's been hot on the election fraud, and he's got some... Woo! The Supreme Court said, no, you're not allowed to investigate the crime. Really? Wow, it just keeps getting worse. Trump mulls punishing NATO allies by pulling U.S. troops over lack of Iran help. Hey, man, we're mostly NATO anyway. We're funding a lot of it. It's a lot of our weapon systems. We're doing, I know we kind of strip mined you and gave it to Ukraine, but, when we needed some help and Israel wanted us to go fight this war, and we started this war, and we need some help from you with the war, and you didn't do it. Now, well, what do you say you do here? Why are we in this? And I'm like, good. Va con Dios, man. Pace. We're out of NATO. But, as Trump always does, this taco thing, he'll threaten. Now you got head and NATO go, oh, no, we be good slaves. So we'll be talking about that, I am sure. Then you had a disgruntled worker. You didn't pay us enough. He sets fire to a 1 million square foot toilet paper warehouse. Well, if you paid us enough, I wouldn't have burned down my job. This you're going to see more of this kind of stuff. It's encouraged. You're not doing it right if you're not going up against the employers and the man. So here we have Israeli breaks ceasefire. Iran retaliates. Here we go again. Ouch, quit it. So Iran blocks Straits of Hormuz again as Israel is bombing and killing hundreds in Lebanon. They go, these are linked. No, they're not. Yeah, they are. No, they're not. Yeah, they are. No, they're not. Yeah, they are. Well, yeah, they are if they close Hormuz. Now it's linked. What are you going to do now? Why is Netanyahu and Trump doing this? Why are they submarine? Why are they attacking right there? Why do they not want to? What is going on? Well, there's some theories, about what's happening with Netanyahu and Israel. Now, Joe Kent on how Israel drove Trump towards an unnecessary war with Iran. Now, this is the Scott Horton show, so I know Scott, and I know he's going to get down to it, and he knows what's up. So that'll be of interest to listen to that. We just got it up. Now, Joe Kent, right under Tulsi Gabbard there, and he knew what was coming. He was, in the war. Hell, his wife was killed, by war, and he's like, nope. I wish you saved my soul, and I am resigning, and I'm telling people what's up. So then we got, Israel is going to attack Iran with nuclear weapons soon, warns Michael Savage with Alex Jones on InfoWars. Is it? Are they? I mean, it's hard to argue with these guys that have been right so much, no matter how crazy conspiratorial, and they wind up doing it. So then you got Trump is endorsing House members, getting whatever it is that he wants and who says you can and can't, but he's pushing a member that was pushing the Illegal Alien Amnesty Dignity Act. Really? Why? What is going on? Charlie Kirk's media company, under another corporate entity, registered as a foreign agent of Israel. Charlie Kirk's media company, under another corporate entity, okay, controlled by another corporate entity, which is registered as a foreign agent of Israel. Really? Then the BB Files, done by Tucker Carlson. I'm halfway through that. I didn't want to be distracted. Whenever I got time to just sit there and watch, damn, this is the reasoning behind a lot of this stuff that's going on. Just saying. Now, Monday, Don and I did a show. Usually I'm interviewing, argue with Frank or, have other guests or so on, but the beginning is nigh. A couple of hours of just me and little Donna going over all the things that we see, what we're doing and why, and here it comes. I felt compelled because of the news of what's going on. Now, all the ceasefire, not a ceasefire, here it comes, there it goes, we're going to, it's not going to happen because Israel does not want it to happen. The deep state does not want it to happen. The Pentagon does not want it to happen. And Trump got sucked in. How is he going to extricate himself from this? Breaking, Pfizer knew the COVID shot was a poison from the very beginning. Yeah, they and Bill Gates and so on, they're getting some attention. We'll see how that works out. Now, the Artemis 2 Orion lunar flyby thing, they're on their way back. They'll land there. And it's just, I've been paying attention, going to the live feed, seeing what's up. Nothing really to see here other than, they went around, okay, cool, whatever. Maybe we'll talk about that. We'll see what happens. Widespread rationing and global energy shortages are baked in no matter when the war ends now. This is going to, you're paying $6 a gallon. There's a reason. Here it comes. So when the Supreme Court came out and did this, the court comes in, a federal judge, this influential vaccine committee that HHS had, and they're bringing out a bunch of information where, whoa, nope. We're canceling that meeting. You can't have it anymore. So what? So this is why Kennedy's got to do the podcast thing. Well, he also rewrites the rules on the CDC panel after the judge blocked the childhood vaccine changes. So this is a battle going on inside. They're trying to wait out Trump or something. And because of the midterms, Frank will want to talk about that. Is he like guaranteed impeachment and trial in the Senate and guilty? What about criminal? I doubt he'll do time, but man, they want him to. John Deere and Company agrees to pay $99 million to settle right to repair a lawsuit. The reason this is a big deal is because anything that you have, any electronics, vehicles, equipment, where they make their money is, oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't work, we got to fix it. We got to do it. The dealership, you're not allowed to even touch it or fix it. This is going to mean that food production is going to go down. It already has. And farmers know. They're like, nope, hell no. Southeastern Arizona, Cochise County, we went and had a trailer we needed welded while we were down there, thing. And it was a young man that grew his business because of this. When he was a young teenager, his dad, he got a lathe, he got a CNC, just kind of built up to where he could work on and fix his farm equipment. And now he's got like a big going business. The guy's in his 20s, and man, he's making bank. Why? Because he's fixing stuff that needs to be fixed, and they don't want you fixing it. I got this same thing going on with my tractor. I just need some hydraulic manifold on my backhoe, and kind of, man, it's like months of waiting for the part to do. I'm really, seriously, but it's under warranty. Don't want to touch it unless, they get the warranty work done. Just in, U.S. M2 money supply jumps to a new all-time high of $22.7 trillion. Now, this is the, actual cash in the system or something. Well, this is, you're starting to see inflation. Is it going to be hyper, oh my God, inflation? Well, you're not seeing it? But you're go in the grocery store, you're seeing it. Food rationing warnings in Australia, plus cyber attack alerts. All that we are being hit from all directions. All directions. Have you occupied the land? Are you self-sufficient? Do you know where your next meal is going to come from when the shelves go bare? I'm telling you. Here we freaking, the beginning is nigh. Then you got Iranians, cyber attacks on the U.S., and they're going to do this and that. And then Trump declares Strait of Hormuz joint venture with Iran as Tehran's toll booth is set to, well, they go, yeah, you want to be in control and get a cut? All right. Only if Trump gets a cut, too. Yeah. We don't have a problem charging. You get a cut, we get a cut. It's all good. We do a deal. We do a deal. Maybe they're Republican. But he's going to try and wrap this in. He wins something. I don't know what, but he's going to win something. So what does Iran do? You go through the straits, you got to pay us. You got to pay us in yuan, Chinese currency, or crypto. Russia's like, yeah, okay, Europe, you want Russian oil? You got to pay for it in yuan, which may go gold back. It's a BRICS thing. Man, oh man, oh man. Data centers under construction in the U.S. is hundreds. Hundreds. They do not have the power to do it. We're going to see. There's a bunch of other stuff going on here, but that's enough for you guys to see what's up. Now, Labour Party in Australia, bring this up, they have dropped the 82% renewable target from the draft platform for the next election. This green agenda of we're going to and you have to and always and you got to, it's going away. Man, where's some coal? Australia's got a lot of coal. So the green agenda, alternative energy in general, Straits of Hormuz, Israel, war and rumors of wars, all this is tied. That's my point. And that's why I wanted to go through this so you guys can see. Nobody asks why anymore. Why this? Why that? Why? It's all related. And it's all about Trump wanting to look good and get a win. You're tired of winning. It's a win. Is he got a win? Is there a win? Not going to war's a win. I can tell you that. So this is ceasefire win. Yeah, but I don't care. Nuclear war, comply no more. Will Israel nuke Iran? They sure as shit want to. Man, you want a war, give you war. And it's going to be Israel, what happens when they lose the support of the American people, which is happening. So that's what I wanted to cover. All right, got that done in, like 15, 20 minutes. Now it's all Frank. What do you want to talk about, Frank?
I'm impressed, Ernest. That was great. Great job. Seriously, you did a good job with that. There's all this to go over. I'm going to, it was great. So there's so many machinations and entanglements, and as I said, we're living through history on so many fronts, and I can see why Ernie's, anxious too with the news, because literally, as if we go on for 4 hours, probably 10 news items are going to drop that are all cutting edge as this is unraveling, hour by hour. So just trying to keep our facts straight, not to mention the fog of war. I mean, half of probably what Ernie's saying and what I'm talking about and we're all hearing is, it's just so many psyops going on right now, Ernie. I'm sure. I mean, not that you're obtuse to that, but, there's so many angles and jockeying for position and Israel and the base of the conservatives and the overall electorate and oil and money. I'm going to start off just really quick with something I was going to save for the end. I'm going to tell you now. I had a patient who I just saw just yesterday. I've seen him for a while, and he's from New Zealand. And he's born and raised there, and he came to America and made a lot of money in real estate here in the Arizona area. And he got married to an American lady and decided to make his dream home and retire over in Australia because he had family there too. So anyway, so he goes off to Australia. He told me he wouldn't see me again for a year. He'd come back to America once in a while. He goes off to Australia, bought this giant home, the whole bit, and it didn't work out. So he moved back. And so anyway, he was telling me
what was his reasoning? It didn't work out, meaning what?
It didn't work out because of and here we go. I thought I was going to save it for the end. And trust me, Ernie, we're going to get back to all the Trump stuff, but this deals with Trump. Of the culture. And he said that, and I blasted out laughing for obvious reasons. I even mentioned your name. You're my buddy. And because again, he's from around the world. He's doing all these different things. And he was talking about the culture differences between New Zealand and Australia, even though he comes from both. But he was in America for so long. And then going back there, and two things, and I'll just make this quick. One was he was saying how much believe it or not, audience, I know Ernie's going to have a heart attack hearing this, is that despite all the problems in America, and he's on, trust me, he thinks like this audience, he said he was surprised how less freedom he felt over in Australia. And he said when he came back to America, he actually felt free. And both of us just, were kind of laughing about it. So again, it's perspective. Trust me, we're not free for a whole bunch of reasons, but it just shows you how all these Western countries are just all going down this cesspool of overtaxation and restrictions, and how, as bad as it feels here, it's worse everywhere else. But we're just kind of the tail end of this Titanic going down as far as freedom. But that's something he brought up. It was very interesting. He went into some details. The other that he said, and this is the point I wanted to share with the audience, is he said he couldn't believe when anyone found out he was an American, every single question, everything is about, guess what? Donald Trump. And he said every airport, every country he goes to, it's like the whole damn world revolves around Trump. And he says he thought, it was just America, Trump, Trump, Trump. He said no. He said it was even worse in Australia, at least. He said because, their oil, they don't get oil shipped in. Their oil comes from other places. And so everything deals with the war and what Trump's tweets are. They were following his tweets more than probably half of America is. They're part of the Five Eyes, the whole intelligence issue, which also includes Israel. It's like Donald Trump sneezes and Australia is all up on edge about what's going on with Trump.
Wait a minute. The Five Eyes includes Israel? Not that that's a surprise, but I never counted them.
You never, they're like the ultimate eye, I guess. So anything that Trump is doing, and of course America. Now I saw this a little bit in Japan, but it was back in the 90s. We were more distant, but it's just fascinating how, and he was surprised just how engaged a whole separate country is, so removed, their own culture, doing all their own things Aussie style. And yet it was like Trump, it was in every conversation and every place he went. And he said himself, it was very profound to note how much what we're doing and arguing about, and Ernie and I arguing, and all of us listening, doing our own piece for freedom, or at least trying to make a difference, how we are affecting the world in a much greater way. Now, when I say the world, I want to get too self-aggrandized about as Americans, because Russia and the Swahili people, they're not as worried about America. So we have to make sure we're talking about a big chunk of the world, not all of it, as some Americans think. But in any case, I thought it was a good place to start about how much this is affecting everyone, even on an emotional level. All right. So, yeah, thanks. Did you get to listen to the I want to talk about the New York Times article and the Tucker show that just dropped last night. I sent it to you this morning. Did you have any time to read the article or listen to Tucker? I know you're busy, but it was last minute.
Well, I don't know. What are you talking about?
All right. Well, two things. So first off, if you're not aware, it may have been on Phoenix, but the New York Times dropped an article, I think it was yesterday or early in the morning.
I had a New York Times article that we put up, but I don't subscribe to them. I won't subscribe to them. I don't care. I go find other stuff that talks about it. And a lot of times when they do this kind of stuff, it's all for they, them, those, clickbait of whatever, and it's BS. So I may know what you're talking about. Let me go.
Yeah. I mean, trust me. Talking about the New York Times is like talking about the CNN on Freedom's Phoenix. It's a cold day in hell. But the reason I'm bringing it up is this was a very interesting article that dropped. And apparently, word on the street is, including all of the neocons who are angry about this article, is that there was a deep throat conversation with a senior New York Times writer from someone deep and very high up in the Trump administration who this came out literally a day or so before Trump was going to, literally start nuking Iran and whatever the hell the crazy talk. Remember, just those 48 hours over Easter. I mean, we have to at least take a breath and remember, is this guy really that mad or not? And
civilization will end.
Yes, and that question is still open for debate, which Ernie and I will get into later about, is this all really Trump's art of the deal, on steroids, or is it gone to his head and he's King Nebuchadnezzar or something at this point? So that's another discussion, but basically during that time it was the moment. I mean, I feel like on the precipice in many ways. Not like the ultimate end of the world, but definitely a change in history one way or the other if he went through. And Tucker did a monologue as well, essentially, in so many words, burning the last strand between him and Trump, essentially calling him the Antichrist. I mean, it was on Christian values. I mean, that was an astounding monologue. I mean, Tucker, these are historic over the last few days that he's done. This isn't just a typical podcaster. As one person pointed out, Tucker Carlson now is essentially taken the mantle of Rush Limbaugh. And I'm not saying that to, disparage Tucker, Rush, you could take him or leave him, but you understand the concept. I mean, he really is probably the focal point of the new, whatever it is that's evolving politically or socially in the country. Tucker has the ultimate pulse on the people like Rush did back in the day. Well, anyway, supposedly, let me turn that down there, Ernie, I could hear that. So supposedly, somebody high up in the administration went to the New York Times. Now, I guess they had to go there because they couldn't go to Fox. Where else are you going to go? They decided to go to the Lady of Record. That also told us COVID shots were fine, by the way. But they went there to give an expose, to finally give people a sense of what is happening because, there's no avenue unless you resign like Joe Kent did. Bottom line is who everyone thinks this person is J.D. Vance. Right? So that's the key here is that people believe this insider who squealed in the New York Times was J.D. Vance, possibly backstabbing Donald Trump, or at least maybe being the only voice of reason like Jiminy Cricket in order to force the move for Trump to stop it. Like he was on the precipice. So if it's true that J.D. Vance had he was deep throat on this New York Times article, it is newsworthy, and that's why I'm bringing it up. Now, with that said, Ernest, I read it. It's very well sourced. I mean, it's a very, very well sourced article, but here are the 6 takeaways. I just wanted to summarize it for you. And a lot of this we probably have heard, but this is coming straight from the White House. Number 1, Netanyahu made a detailed pitch in the Situation Room with Trump and his team. So we have a foreign leader in the Situation Room, and he had an over hour long pitch that he gave to Trump, like a whole presentation. And in the back, there was a screen, like a FaceTime screen, where you had I think the head of Mossad or the IDF, I forget it was the IDF or Mossad, that was on the back screen also commenting. So Netanyahu was like tag teaming like Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, on Trump in that room. So that's number 1, which is unprecedented when we're about to make a decision for our military. The next is that the U.S. intelligence officials, they called Netanyahu's regime change scenario farcical, which is true. They basically, it was Ratcliffe from the CIA. He was pointing out, says, look, after Netanyahu did his thing, he says, look, I'm hearing what he's saying. This is a joke. Now, what the joke was two prongs of what Netanyahu was trying to point out. The first was that you can decapitate, the Ayatollah and all of that, which, the Ratcliffe, and when I say him, I mean, most of the intelligence people who were there, they all had the same opinion, which was, yes, Netanyahu is correct on that. We could easily bomb the hell out of him and take that part out, the superficial part. But Netanyahu and his whole team were swearing up and down that once they were killed, the uprising would occur. The Straits of Hormuz would never be dealt with, would never be a problem, because they were guaranteeing that they knew from on the ground and all their spies, and they're the number one spy agency, that they were ripe for the picking for a revolution. And that's what the cell was. Whereas his own intelligence people were saying, that's farcical. That's not going to happen. The people are not ready for that. And even if they wanted to, they don't have the guns to do it. It has to happen more organically. So they were saying it's a joke. And the second thing they were pointing out was that Israel, I mean, remember, these are people who have been in this business a lot longer than Donald Trump has ever even been in politics, right? So these people, and they were all telling him that even Democrat officials have had the same opinion, that Israel oversells. That's what they're known to do. They make a big pitch, and they constantly oversell, and it's up to intelligence agencies to try to kind of demystify the presidents, because they've tried
which they're part of and included.
Right. Hey, look, I know there's a lot more subtext for our audience than what we know, but yeah, I think you've already heard, many of the audience, that the same little used car salesman deal was thrown on Obama. They tried it on what was it? Was it Bush as well? I mean, and these presidents have at least, and on Biden, and at least they were smart enough to turn it down. And like, all right, nice try there, Netanyahu. Just stick to buying off our representatives, I guess. The next one, Vice President J.D. Vance. And this is what's ironic, because a lot of people think it was J.D. who actually leaked it, but we're not positive yet. But the third takeaway was that J.D. Vance was the strongest and mainly the only voice against the war. And he made a very persuasive, forceful case that many in the room found was, well, I guess, persuasive. But the other problem is that most of the other advisors, many of them were swayed by him, but they felt intimidated to even say anything in the room, which probably doesn't surprise many people here. They said Hegseth was the most gung-ho of all of them in the room. So, it's kind of like what you see on TV is what you really get with him.
He's like, and we got to draft people and do and make them big and kind of bomb and we're going to kick ass. I am, whoa, that is dangerous.
We also have another takeaway here is that Trump, this is probably not a surprise, but Trump honestly believed, and he was saying during the meeting, that this would have been a quick war like in Venezuela. Just keeping it, I mean, I know. What else can you say with that one? And then for Trump, it was a gut-driven decision enabled by an echo chamber that did not exist in his first term, which brings up, of course, a whole loaded topic, which ultimately, I don't know if we can unpack all this in just one show, but it's what Tucker's monologue was about, too, is how did we get to this point? How did we get to a point where an echo chamber got around the ultimate nationalist populist, in-your-face candidate that was all for the people and the working man, and and every one of those demographics, not to get into the whole topic about polls and the next election, that's coming later, but it is a collapse of collapses we've never seen, I've seen in any president. They're saying it's closest to Truman, which I didn't even know Truman's popularity collapsed that quick. I thought he was more of a hero after World War II, but apparently it's like lower than Truman's. He was the lowest. I mean, we're thinking Jimmy Carter, but
I think there's a story of Eisenhower. When he went in, he refused to exchange with him, shake his hand, where they didn't like each other. It was a thing. That was the thing.
Yeah, I had no clue about that. And so, but apparently it's that low. And yet, so that's the larger story. We're not going to get sidetracked right now, but it just keeps hovering over this whole thing, which is, how is it that MAGA, and I'm not going to insult Ernie and call him MAGA, so you can yell at me, but I would definitely say I was MAGA. And yet you've got, the whoever. I mean, I don't want to say if Tucker was MAGA. I mean, I don't even know, whatever MAGA is.
Let's time, nobody ever defined it.
I supported the movement. I don't know if I ever actually came out and said I'm MAGA, but I definitely identified with it. I wore the hat, so I don't know if that qualifies or not. But I'm a free thinker on it. But still, I'm not following whatever Donald Trump's version of it is, of course, and that's where the split has occurred. And so it's just ironic. We have to just remember for a moment that almost every person who supported Trump back in 2015, when he went down that people, including myself as an example. I'm not making this about me, but my wife was pregnant. We're about to have our first child. I have a cash practice, which is through word of mouth in a profession that is very left leaning. And for me to go on Ernie's show and publicly come out and, again, originally I was for Ben Carson. You guys are like, is he really for Trump or not? But for me to be all of a sudden the poster child, at least on Freedom's Phoenix, of the Trump voter, that Ernie liked to just use me as a foil, that's fine. But the fact that for me to come out of the closet when back, of course, can't help yourself. But I mean, for me to come out and do that, when people were getting, blackballed at work and fired for saying you like Trump back in the day. Remember those days? And I'm not the only one. And people have made a lot bigger sacrifices than that. I'm just saying that that's who the base was. People who put, their careers on the line, and their liberties and other things. And some people even lost their lives over this whole process we've seen over 10 years. And so against these so-called never Trumpers, Ben Shapiro. And one of the reasons they didn't seem to like him is because he talked about no more wars, forgetting also exposing the deep state and the swamp, which, of course, that didn't happen. But the thing is, the people who wanted the wars and the regime changes, they didn't want a guy who was running against it. And so the irony is we go from that version of Trump and the MAGA movement or whatever it was to now where almost every person who was original or OG MAGA, and I put that in quotes, we're all person non grata. I mean, Tucker, go down the list. Heck, Alex Jones. Go down the whole list. All of these people now, we're considered anti-Semitic Democrats, which, whatever that means, while suddenly Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin are the pinnacle of what MAGA is supposed to be. So it's like the ultimate bait and switch gaslighting of what this movement has been. So the bottom line is it's a takeover of takeovers, and how that happened, or the fact that it was able to happen, is really, in my opinion, probably the largest story of this entire thing that we've been dealing with 10-something years, which harkens to my point that Donald Trump, the reason I also supported him is I knew that he would expose the deep state, whatever that is. And I was hoping he would do it proactively, that he's in charge. But you know what? I knew that if he decided to go to not follow through, that he had already dug himself a hole so much that it would still expose the deep state either way. And that's what he's done. Through his own downfall and his own, buying into the deep state, he's exposed it in a way that we're all seeing, which is coming out now, including not just this article. It's becoming obvious about the influence of Israel, which then gets to the Tucker Carlson monologue. And I highly recommend all of you listening, listen to the first, was a half hour, 40 minutes of Tucker's monologue from last night. I mean, man, if he didn't have a target on his back before, my God. I mean, Tucker, aside from calling Trump the Antichrist and disavowing him essentially, right after Easter.
I watched that.
Now this last one from last night was epic. I mean, my mouth dropped. I mean, he basically called out and said what everyone's been dancing around, which is, what is the deal with Israel? And he was even berating him a bit. It's like Israel doesn't realize they are our employee. They are a client state. You work for us at our pleasure if we want to. Like, that's basically the words he's using. I mean, basically, like, you guys don't know your place, and the rest of America needs to know you're not in charge. And how did you get in charge? I mean, this is all his show, right? And he's talking about, the whole thing of dual citizenships and pointing that out, which was anti-Semitic. I mean, every single thing that he was saying was labeled anti-Semitic just 2 months ago? I mean, it still is for a large group of people out there pushing that old narrative. But it's like the veil has fallen. I know our audience has seen this for a while, but it's kind of like the 100th monkey, or how would you describe it, Ernie, when it's like, what do you say, general public opinion, right? When something finally becomes general public opinion, it then finally, that's when you get the shift. And I think a lot of us say, it doesn't happen right away, but then it happens overnight, or however you word that.
Yeah, this is, I was showing the audience the New York Times article. I guess I got a subscription on the studio computer, and how Trump took the U.S. to war with Iran. And I just, kind of skimming through it, just kind of, people can pause the video and read this if they don't want to go subscribe. And I had no idea this thing was this long. Holy crap. It is a long-ass article. The bottom line is that Israel came in, Netanyahu, where Trump usually sits at the end of the table, he sat in the middle. Right across from him was Netanyahu. And then behind Netanyahu is the head of the Mossad, the military, blah blah blah, the whatever. We're coming in. We're going to show you Colin Powell vials. We're going to do the scare you, and they got, and the bomb's almost done. Whatever the hell it is that they're doing to make the presentation. So they come in, do this presentation. They spend a day or two. They just wear him down and squeeze his bicep and tell him Trump how smart he is, and he must lift, and he's so pretty, and you'll be great and wonderful if you do this. Now, a lot of people are going, look, this new wars, this promise that you made, getting into it with Iran, you don't really have any idea what you're going up against. And the biggest opposition came from J.D. Vance. And you had a lot of other people doing stuff, maybe Higgs, but this was not widely, so it was just one of those, there's something they had, I have no idea, but they definitely had a psychological map of Trump and how to get him to go, and let's go. And the final, as you look at the article, the final phrase, is kind of, all right, here we go, let's do it, let's get her done. At the end, here, let me pull this up so that people can see it. He gives the order, aboard Air Force One the next afternoon, 22 minutes before General Kane's deadline, Mr. Trump sent the following order. Operation Epic Fury is approved. No aborts. Good luck. Boom. And we're done. And here we go. What was the goal? Well, they keep talking about no enrichment of nuclear fuel, like they can't have their own nuclear power reactors. And if I was Iran, I'd kiss my ass. I can do whatever any state can do, or we're not. We're a slave or vassal to you guys. I didn't see that as going to happen. And the Persian Empire has been around for thousands of years. I mean, these guys are not. And in the modern history, I guess, since America's been around, I don't remember them ever doing any war of aggression. Now, of course, they have these proxies that are in response to whatever Israel's doing. But, one of those, what was it, Hezbollah or Hamas, was created by Israel. Like the ISIS was created by the CIA. And if they didn't have a good enough reason, they would create one. This is, it's so, and what happened if you go up against a developed country with oil riches and resources, and they don't even speak Arabic, they speak Farsi. This is a proud and long time, rich, thousands of years of a culture, as Frank would like to say. And what happens is, are they going to evaporate? Are they going to go away? Are they going, what? And the argument that the people are going to rise up without guns or anything, or what was the general public opinion, right? It's just all propaganda. Now, is it true they lop off heads? Probably. Is it true that they, go after? Yeah. Is it true that? Yeah, probably. I mean, compared to what? Us? All the around Africa, they're terminating entire villages. They're going after the Christians. Israel's bombing mosques, Jewish temples in Tehran. They're bombing Christian cultures in Beirut. They're doing, really? This is all coming out. And it is so obvious that Trump was compromised, convinced, he's got dementia, there's something else going on. And the big thing is, I'll end with this, BB files. This is a documentary. It's a couple hours long.
Oh, you watched it? I haven't seen it yet.
I'm about halfway through.
Was it good?
And it's what all it is that why is Bibi Netanyahu so on this Zionist Greater Israel? We got to have war, kick ass. Well, it's because he's under criminal investigation for corruption with all his billionaire buddies, and he's going to go to jail. Well, you ain't going to jail if you're at war. I mean, that kind of thing. So it is in his interest to keep this going on, or he's going to wind up in a jail cell. And then he's going to bring down Trump with him. This is, and then we got the NATO thing. Why is there still a NATO? No. United Nations? I vote no on that one too. Well, Trump wants to get out for what? Does that free him up? Or save the money? Or redistribute it? There's so much going on. I don't know of any other solution other than extract yourself, become more self-sufficient, occupy the land. This I just had on this morning, Silver Dave, the local silver mint guys that are making 10th ounces that are in the Liberty community because it's going to go to precious metals barter and trade. It's going to go to private cryptocurrencies. It's going to go, not the dollar. It's going to do that. And what happens when they have gold back one? What happens when you got the BRICS doing it? You know what? We have 7, 8 major vaults around the world that you can go in and go get your gold and trade in your digital whatever and gimme. Just saying. Because they were wanting to do this from China. That was a non-starter. Oh, hell no. I trust you guys. Still don't trust them. But, to go to a gold back one. And what's Russia doing? Yeah, Europe, you need Russian oil? You need it real bad, don't you? Oh, you're starting to burn coal again? Firing up your nuclear power plants? But you need it now? You're freezing? You're going to need your air conditioning to work? You need your factories to function? Guess what you need? Some Russian oil. You know how you're going to get it? You're going to use the yuan. You're going to bypass the petrodollar. And I think a lot of this was about the petrodollar. But how deep does Trump actually think? And all it needed was just some rose-colored glass, some weird-ass, I have no freaking idea. Make America great again. America first. No wars. All of that just went out the window. For a reason. What is it? I don't know. But it will come out. And it's starting to come out. This is, Trump spent all his capital. He's done.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican Party's got to go. We're going to start some. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not an idiot. She's a long-term thinker. Her. And then we got to get out of NATO. Well, he does all this bluster and bullshit. Who introduced legislation to do that very thing? Who did it? Who's championing that legislation to get out of NATO? Who do you think? Who do you think? Massey.
Yeah.
So Massey comes out and goes, yeah, I got legislation right here. We're out of NATO. Done. You have, we're done. Trump's like, damn it, I hate when Massey does that shit. So this is, we are in, and I would feel, and why I needed to express myself, just Donna and I, Monday, beginning of the week. The only solution that I can see, the only, answer to all of this that gives you the most security for you and your family is exactly what we are doing. For exactly this reason, we knew to do it. Self-sufficiency, remoteness, but then what do I get? I get a priority mail letter from the Department of the Army that my land was used as decades ago in World War II of kind of munitions of maybe kind of we might have to come and inspect. I'm like, of course you do. Oh my God, I went too far.
And I'm sure you're quick to respond to that letter, too.
I don't give a shit. I just thought it was funny as hell. So I'm just saying, and I don't care. Well, when they come, if they do anything, it's going to be very interesting. What is it that is the general public opinion in America? It is this. It's this homesteading thing. It's Generation Next. The younger get away from the stress, get away from the inflation, get away from, they're putting their stuff. I saw this starting to happen. God, it was like after the revolution. It was between 08 and 12. In that 4-year period there, I saw a lot of people with the resources, the tech bros. They're moving to a farm in Missouri, starting to create their own communities, trying different things. You got Derek Bros and John Bush and the Free State Project and everybody out doing the greater reset of their kind of, I'm going, yeah, okay, you guys do you. I'm just going to do it for me and my family. Be an example. Inspire that one couple can do it. That's, occupy the land with attainable housing. Why? Because you're going to have to, or you're going to suffer, or you're going to go to the local closest stadium of I need government cheese and give me some bottled water. Well, I'm getting away from the plastic, too. I mean, we're really changing a lot of things. Right now, we just started a parasite cleanse. Then we'll do a fungal thing. We kind of get, baseline of get all the crap out and detoxify because we're out here not polluting ourselves with every purchase that we do. We're eating out of Donna's garden. We're starting to grow more food. We're getting ready to plant the trees. We're doing the root cellar. We're kind of, that we need to start fresh and kind of, be healthy enough to create the structure and the infrastructure and the buildings here for our family. We went to Easter. Or a bunch of our family hanging out. And, everybody, all of a sudden, Gamma and Papa, kind of crazy people out in the desert in a bus. All of a sudden, that, little levity has gone away. And people are starting to make that move towards that kind of stuff. They are a lot more interested in what we're doing and how we're doing it. They're, in-laws and in-laws' parents. And, yeah, we've been watching your videos. They came out on Christmas time. They're doing, Donna's family. So they're all of a sudden, Ernie and Donna aren't so crazy anymore. Because my presentation at an Acapulco was titled, What If You Knew? What if you knew? What if you knew what was coming? What if you knew the type of people you're dealing with? What if you knew the psychopathic, sociopathic, scumbag pieces of crap that don't care, that will do any and everything? They would bomb entire countries, risk thermonuclear war because, they, corrupt and stole money and whatever the hell. This is why. Nobody asks why. Well, I am every day, every spare moment, I'm not in front of this computer. Boom, we're out there. We just finished Donna's power generation at her garden, hen house, root cellar area that she has over there. We just finished up putting up the solar panels. We had the inverter and the charge controller and the battery is all done. She only needs one of the 4 batteries I got. I mean, it's already 3 times bigger, more capacity with just one of the 12.8 300 amp batteries than our EcoFlow. It's like 3 times as much power as that. I'm like, look, you're good. And we put it in a wagon so that she could take it around wherever she wanted instead of running wire while we're in the construction over there. So she just puts it underneath the solar panels, charges it up. It'll last a week. So I'm just going, that's what we're doing. You want to know what we're doing? That's what we're doing. Now, the summer's coming. We'll see, how many more air conditioners I got to buy and how many panels I got to do. I think we're good. What are you doing? I'm telling you, if you're not doing, you're going to suffer. Inflation is coming. Look at the fuel prices. That's going to translate to everything. Anything made of plastic. Donna wants to get a big, poly 3,000-gallon tank. I go, well, we got to make a decision. How much higher do you want silver to go? Because we put it all in silver so it didn't just, inflate away. But I'm going, at the same time, now inflation's hitting, and petroleum with that big, giant 3,000-gallon water tank that's a poly whatever the hell, the cost of that is going to go up faster than the silver. I mean, there's a sweet spot here. Silver's taking another leap. You know, it might be over $80 by the end of the week. Do we sell some of that now to buy this poly tank before it shoots up past, oh my God? You know, these are the kinds of things that you need to have as options and to think about what you're going to do, because it's not going to be forever and always. We got some ways of making money, or we did, and it'll last us a long. I saw it happen to my parents. When my parents retired in the late 90s, I saw they were like, "Woo, we're good, and we got this and percentage of kind of that." It didn't last them. Well, by the time my father died, it was all gone. You know, my mom liquidated everything, signed over to government, kind of whatever, and they pay for her retirement home that she then signed here, and kind of nothing passed on, all the land's gone, everything. But we were good. The kids were like, fine. You wanted the government to take care of you, you went government. Well, you can count on the government to whatever, and then we supplement and send her, some get her, pay for her phone, get, you know, whatever, and pick her up, take her out, and hang with my mom. But inflation strip mined them of everything. And they were sitting pretty good. And I saw it happen. And my dad was all proud of his tax records. Ooh, he had 3, 4 file cabinets full of every year detail. Man, he loved paperwork. Ooh, I filled out the paperwork. I did it right. Yeah, you did it right.
You sure not? Are you sure you're not adopted?
Right. No, I am so not. You want a receipt? Yeah, well, I don't care. Yeah, whatever. It's on digital. Donna figures it out and does. She's doing taxes now. You know, and the only reason we even do taxes is because, one, I haven't seen a mushroom cloud yet. That happens. That's over. And two, because we have to honor the people that fund us, because they're writing off and they're doing whatever and how they're kind of tracking it, so we know the man or them coming to up. You know, so we're, you know, it's my extortion fee. You know, how much do I gotta pay a month if you leave me? Okay, that it's worth it there. Boom, done. Now, of course, I could use that money a lot more, but that's not the battle that I want to fight right now, which is why we do Libertas.Earth, the philosophy of liberty, self-ownership. That is 54 languages. It's starting to expand. It's exploding what people are doing with this, to the point that I got Grok tracking metrics on different things, and all I wanted to know, how many times is that getting reposted from that site? That's all I want to know. And from the sites that we do. BitChute is featuring it at the top because we did theirs as the main embed because they wanted to promote it. We have all kinds of stuff going, but a lot of things, decentralized communication, like our DLive account that we stream to. Now, we stream on freedomsphoenix.com, and it's there, but that holds it for a few days and does mass streaming was DLive. Now, we do Restream that does, you know, the streams and so on. Now, we could do YouTube and Facebook and so on, and we had done that years ago, like 20 or something. We tried before we went on the Love Bus Liberty tour, and it was for like 6 weeks, and then they canceled it. Why? Because they can. They don't want us talking about what we're talking about. This is why we created the storage and the dissemination process that we did for projects like Libertas.Earth. So this, it's not like we're sitting on our hands, but what can you do that they can't undo, that they can't stop? They, them, those. Because they sure as shit want to. They are surveilling and sharing their, 23andMe database of all DNA, it was hacked and it's gone. We're so sorry, and Palantir has it. I mean, you know, what'd you think was going to happen? We are in the end times of believing that governments are ever act in our self-interest, you know, for the people. They're doing for they, them, those that got the shiny badges and whatever, and this Israel thing is not going to survive this. Not with any general public support. It's not, you can't.
No. So, no, I definitely agree. to
Oh,
take
and
that.
one other thing I wanted to mention, you can go on, Nick Fuentes. Nick coming out, Mike Savage on Alex Jones, Matt Walsh, even Matt Walsh on Daily Wire, kind of slings in a little bit every now and then, he gets away with stuff. Freaking Candace Owen, oh my God.
Yeah,
You know?
I told you.
So this is, and they're going after him. What is that going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be arrest? Is there going to be death? Is there going to, and what do we have on Freedom's Phoenix? We got one of the main stories is these guys that are letting out information about UFOs, they're dropping like flies. It's like they're up to 9 people. These officers come out and say, "Oh, let me tell you about, UFOs and and you're dead." I'm like, what the shit is going on there? I went through this before. It was when naturopathic doctors were challenging vaccines. They were going, look, man, this is not, they were dropping like flies too. That's why we interviewed Dr. Judy Mikovits every week for years. Literally, I had hundreds of shows with her, hundreds. And the reason is because I was trying to keep her alive. That was it.
Yeah.
So this is Nick Fuentes says U.S. lost Iran war. Trump surrendered. Iran won.
Yep.
What's that about? I have no idea. I put this stuff up and I go later and go through. I'm like, it's shifting. Netanyahu, Israel-U.S. relationship, the people, this Christian Zionism thing, understanding real history, people getting educated, and then they're just bypassing the system. They're not participating. They don't vote. They're not as enthusiastic. They're looking for a solution that they have control over. Things like occupy the land. Things like getting your house in order financially, getting out of debt, getting precious metals, having tools and equipment. Bob just bought a CNC laser. He's had a CNC machine he's used for working on his plane and stuff. He's doing whatever. And he goes, come here, Ernie. I was over there, I don't know, Saturday or something. He goes, come here, I want to show you something. We go in the back bedroom. His son that finally graduated for Embry-Riddle, now he works for Amazon Florida, making bank and whatever. So his bedroom became his workroom. It's got a CNC laser, and that's what's coming. It is desktop manufacturing, publishing, doing outside of the lamestream system of whatever the hell, because they're going to be bartering. The currencies aren't going to mean anything anymore. Certainly not tied to U.S. dollar. When they do this central bank digital currency or stable coin, stable to what? The dollar? What the hell you mean? Don't call it stable and then link it to the dollar. What kind of bullshit is that?
Yeah. Well, I think what's, this entire process, and, it's like a process, this world we live in the last, 10 years. I don't want to tie it all just to Trump, but Trump was certainly the ultimate agitator to get this reset or whatever's happening going. Whether he was the initiator or ultimately it was going to fall apart. We all knew that before Trump. It's like again, the famous Peter Schiff quote: "It's a giant balloon waiting for a pin to pop," and Trump was just a giant balloon
hunting for a pin.
Yeah. So it's like, I think this whole process has been essentially it's like the ice bucket challenge, with the whole ice water just dumped on America. You could argue a lot of the Western world, or the whole world really, waking up to America, the new America, the paper tiger of what it is, understanding the petrodollar, the currency issue, a lot of that, thanks to our friend Charles Goyette with the dollar meltdown that the Chinese, translated into, and #1 bestseller over in China. So this has been a process for a while of people getting out of this sense of the hegemony. My patient said the same thing. He said he was just amazed how almost like the people in Australia, New Zealand, a couple other countries he mentioned, how they themselves are still in this zombie state, this post-World War II world that the whole world has basically been born into. I mean, maybe there's still someone still alive from World War II, but I mean, everyone alive right now, we're just We were just bequeathed this system that we just were always told this is how it was. Now, once in a while, you had a troublemaker, like people who tend to be libertarians or others, who start questioning why things are the way they are. But, before the internet, and you only had 3 channels on TV, those narratives were squashed. So it was just assumed this is how it is. The whole world takes a dollar. The whole world speaks English. The whole world bows down to America. The whole world, America's got the nukes, and this is just the way it is. And Russia's the bad guy, and this setup until finally this new world. A lot of it with the internet, a lot of it from about what I'm going to talk about in just a second is just the emperor wears no clothes. Not just about America, but that there can be a different world. We all, and which is the optimistic part of the Freedom's Phoenix. We often talk about the Great Reset and 1,000 Years of Darkness and all of this. And, you get into Peter Thiel, and we'll talk about him in a second, and the cyber state. And there's a lot of definitely challenges we have to deal with. But that I think you're starting to see people for the first time en masse think, look around and go, maybe there is a different way of the world working, or because the world around them is not working, but also they're seeing how the fallacies and the lies and how up is down and left is right. And it's not just one person. It's not one politician. It's not one thing. It's everything, right? Which we've, of course, covered on this show for, ad nauseum, and we all do. I mean, whether it's medicine and Fauci, or the news, or the economic situation, or even the leaders. Remember, the Democrats, they got screwed over too from their point of view, because Barack Obama was their version of Donald Trump, in a sense. It was their change candidate who was completely new, a new generation, someone who, if you listen to his rhetoric, he was offering a different reality, but of course, changed on a dime once he was in office. And they're like, what the hell happened to Obama? He was the first one speaking differently to Democrats. Now, it was in a way that Democrats could see it. And Trump was speaking to the nationalist movement, and the same co-option has occurred here. Before I get to the next point, I just want to mention the UFO thing real quick. There was another UFO person who just died yesterday. His name's Nick Pope. I just wanted to get this out before I forget. I don't know
what I was talking about.
Yeah, we didn't mention his name, but I know that's probably what sparked it. Nick Pope he actually was a British security minister. He worked for one of the their version of Project Blue Book over in England. And he was, top secret for years. Eventually he retired, and he's a very great speaker. In fact, I met him and hung out with him at the UFO conference I went to last year in California. He's just a really nice guy, and he was just it's probably just more of a coincidence, but he was, maybe not, but he was just diagnosed with esophageal cancer in February that was already stage 4 all over his body and operative, and then he died like a month and a half later. And so I don't know, whatever that's about, but it's a loss to people who know about him. But going back to the current events here, first thing you have with Vance, and we've hinted about this or discussed this, but I really want to point this out with the New York Times article, Vance, and you see this line with this internal fight with the CIA. I think so much of this is coming down to the CIA, because the FBI has their thing. I've been told, or at least not told, but from what I seem to glean, is that the FBI has their own issues, but they've been holding out, being more pro-America than the CIA. And the CIA seems to be even so rogue, the ultimate rogue group, and yet
from the beginning.
Right. And so they have been fractured inside, the impression I get. God knows, not that I work for them or have inside knowledge, but it seems more and more clear that there's two camps. There's a minority, I'll just call them the white hat, although it doesn't mean that they're really all the good guys, and versus the real deep state guys who seem to be co-opted by Israel. And then the other group that's not, they're still probably tapping our phones, all this illegal crap, but they're saying they're still thinking they're the good guys doing it for America, not for another foreign interest. So I guess the point is, if you're going to violate the American citizens, Bill of Rights, you may as well do it for America, violate the Bill of Rights, not for Israel. I guess that's really what's coming down to, is who gets the control of violating our fellow Americans. But that seems to be the fight. And so just see this correlation, right? We have Vance, And, Vance is the one trying to, try to de-escalate this. Vance, he knows with Peter Thiel, right? Obviously, the influence there. And then you have with Vance, who works for Vance, Tucker Carlson's brother, right? So Tucker's brother works with Vance. So then you've got Tucker, who's been, oh yeah, Tucker's brother is like the first chief of staff for Vance. I mean, this is what's going on. And then you've got Tucker, of course, and then Tucker's got his show, #1 show. And I said this last few weeks. If you really just listen to him, and look, I'm not taking anything away from Tucker that he's an idiot.
Definitely not allowed to talk to his brother.
But Tucker is, I mean, it's not like he's just doing his own research with things. He comes up with concepts, and it's impossible for someone, in my opinion, day by day, who claims he doesn't even have a computer, doesn't use the internet. It's impossible for someone to be so tied into bringing up issues and machinations and the poker game of how the world is working. And he's bringing and exposing things so quickly now. There's no way, I believe, that he's just doing it by just perusing the internet, or looking at a journal that he claims he doesn't do. Right? He's got to be, and his family's already CIA anyway. And apparently he admitted that he was invited to join the CIA years ago and he declined. So, and I'm not trying to say that he's wrong in what he's talking about, but it's too convenient, right? And you're seeing this fast track of Tucker, all these claims he's CIA, his type of show, and then with Vance. And it's almost like this is the offensive move that the white hats and the CIA are using to try to fight this war, this internal war. And this is also happening in the UFO world, by the way. It's like the same kind of thing where it's almost like this suppressed America First, if there's such a thing, America First, 3-letter agency people. But it's like these are the people who are trying to fight for America over other suppression from the military-industrial complex, not allowing the UFO stuff to come out, the whole Israel hegemony world. So, I just wanted to point that out, that there's definitely, I just see such a link. And I think Tucker in the past may have brought one of these little concepts out once in a while, like maybe once a month or a couple times a month. He would say something that, of course, would put Tucker on the map. Tucker's really a smart guy, and you're learning from his show. But there's so much coming out now. And it's because the news cycle is so ramped up and we're at a precipice. We have to make a choice. And so I think Tucker's almost showing his cards about how much inside baseball he has, of how but he feels obligated. He's like, no, this is the time. Someone has to say something, and we have to get this information out without, I guess, violating security, measures. So I just wanted to bring up that dynamic that I see more and more clear. Now, where Peter Thiel is with this, that's my concern, because they're all friends of Peter Thiel. And, I would like to trust Vance. I just don't, because of the Peter Thiel angle. But, Vance seems to be the only one with the clear head. He's the one now, the only one that the Iranians will speak with. That's why this treaty that has been postponed, or at least the peace talks, I should say, they only want to talk to Vance. Trump has burned his bridges with all of his Zionist sycophant, employees, from his son-in-law and the rest. So now it's only Vance. So, it's very convenient. He might wind up being the superstar out of this. Now, was that also a psyop? Did they set him up to do that? Right? It's like Trump, Israel, they got everything they wanted as much as they can, but in order to save face for the Republican Party, but here's Vance. He was the good boy. He was the good guy. And, you hate Trump all you want, but make sure you vote Republican for Vance, right? You've got that whole deal going on. And Peter Thiel, I just still don't trust. So I since you didn't know about the Tucker angle, definitely want to bring that up. There's also the 10-point plan, which is also being debated. I'm sure you already have read it. And every single point is pro-Iran. And the fact that Trump said, yeah, it's a good working model. I think we can work with it and iron something out. I mean, I don't know how you iron out those 10 points or even versions of it. Certainly Iran or Israel will despise it, but it shows and proves the ultimate loss to America. And when I had read about the 10-point, even before Trump caved in with it, and we didn't have our show yet. We were still between the week. But I predicted on my own. I mean, others could see this too. But that if this was going to be, if this goes through, if Trump has to taco out, which I figured he would, I just couldn't believe he was going to go for World War III. Then it's either we're going to have World War III and we're done, and the nuclear clouds, and then government loses or America loses, the world loses, or it's going to be the ultimate collapse, the historical footnote from World War I, when America became, a superpower, quote unquote, to basically, the collapse of, in historical terms, of the America's presence in the world. It's the day, I mean, if you can mark on a day when the British Empire stops becoming the British Empire or the Spanish Empire. And I think very well, in many ways, this capitulation to this 10-point, whatever they hammer out, as long as the fighting doesn't begin again on America's side, then this will be an historical landmark. I think, and hold the comment on this one for a second. I think Donald Trump might go down in some ways as maybe the greatest president ever. And I have a huge Barry Bonds size asterisk on that comment. But I just want to. But the reason I'm saying this, last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about Thucydides' trap, right? Which is the concept that that just throughout history, whenever you have a grand superpower and you have a rising power that's been, rising through the ages, when all of a sudden it threatens the dominance of the superpower, you will always have a transformative war. And usually they're pretty epic and many people die. And this has happened throughout time. And so this is where we have the most powerful nation ever on Earth, that at least we're aware of. Some people think that there may have been the reptilians. I'm not going there. I don't really believe that. But, for what we know, this is the most powerful. And now you have China, you have Russia, we have the BRICS, we have, and Iran is just a friend of them. But we're looking at World War III, and this could be the epic of all of them. Obviously, this is what we're looking at. And yet, it goes off with just violent texts and, tweets, truths, and then the whole thing just sputters out. And it is, if that's the case, that could be in some ways, whether it was intentional or not, the greatest taco moment of all time. But it could have been the best, profound way to end the Thucydides trap. It's like the quickest Thucydides trap conversion ever seen, because everyone's been expecting this massive World War III, and yet the whole world just was shown that America, we're spent. The economy's spent, and our own people are not even supporting this war. It's the first war ever in American history where the support was underwater, like 70%. I mean, every war before, even Vietnam, was higher. It was like, 60, 70% when it first started. I mean, these wars always quickly go down after, the propaganda only works so long until the body bags come back and the costs. But to have a war this far underwater, right? The rest we have the internet, we have all of these sources. And it's almost like, I'm going to use a urology term, it's almost like it's like this Thucydides trap went off with like premature ejaculation. I mean, that's what it's like. It's like this whole thing was getting ready to go, and it's just, that's what happened. Sorry, guys, but that's what comes to my head. I mean, what has come out of this already? World War III may be over. I mean, for the most part. I mean, we might just go into the shadows and just lick our wounds, especially with the upcoming midterms and what will happen. Yes, I know the Democrats are also infiltrated by AIPAC as well, but they're being outed. I mean, and that's a whole other story, how the Democrats are going through their own purging of AIPAC money and influence. We also have, of course, the overt end of the hegemony that the rest of the world is seeing. We have NATO, which is now dead and gone. Essentially. I mean, the NATO, I mean, what is NATO at this point? I mean, Donald Trump's threatening Greenland. He didn't even warn the NATO people about going into Iran. And then he starts begging for help, and then he bitches when they don't help. And he's bitching about Japan and South Korea, who was his southeast friends just as of a couple weeks ago, and He's dissing them. I mean, he's kicking sand and complaining about not just the New York Times or somebody. These are world leaders. These are people that he would need support, and he's just burning bridge after bridge after bridge. And so NATO basically is realizing we don't need America. Then you have the Arab nations, the same thing. They're dissociating. They realize America promised to defend and they can't defend. That when push comes to shove, it's always about Israel. And there it goes back to Israel. It's great when America is all supporting Israel because they're our best friend. We need to support them. But when all of a sudden it's like, 60, 70% disapproval, get Israel out of our politics, then all of a sudden, the Arab nations start to see, America more as a paper tiger, and everyone's seeing Israel as like a problem child. It's kind of like, it reminds me of, the story of a parent and their kid keeps coming home saying people are mean to them at school. And so you move to another school and then those kids are mean. And then you move to another school and those kids are mean. You're getting fights all the time. Like, at what point do you finally start to look in the mirror? It's hard for a parent to realize maybe it's my kid. Maybe my kid's starting the fights. It's possible. There's something going on here. And that's what's happening in those nations. Iran now is considered, not that I'm some supporter of Iran. I mean, there's good people there, I'm sure. But, the Iranian, and like I said, there's Christian churches. It's a lot more diverse and technological and civil than at least the Zionists ever give credit to that country. But Iran is coming off as a victim. I mean, people are becoming sympathetic to Iran. I mean, you have to really work hard at that to have Iran sympathetic. And Iran is already part of BRICS, right? Who already owns the gold and owns the manufacturing and owns the rare earth metals and, I mean, the whole bit. And America just blew their wad on all of their on all their munitions. And that's on top of Ukraine, right? It's on top of Ukraine and now in Iran. So we have blown so many of our missiles which need the rare earth metals to make, which we don't have those rare earths. And the whole world has seen it. And also, it bears repeating, I said a few weeks ago how I read reports where the Russian military has been sitting back just analyzing the American military indirectly through the Ukraine war because they're seeing what munitions we have, the weaknesses. And meanwhile, these other countries, and Tucker just talked about this last night, the same video that you should check out. He was talking about how the military-industrial complex has bought off these politicians and for the amount of money, these lobbyists down in Virginia and the D.C. area, they have so much money to build aircraft carriers and build all these old tanks and boats and ships. You're building all this stuff. And it was an interesting point that like the Russians were talking about is that the new wars, it's like the Guns of Navarro that JFK read, understood the enemy about don't fight the last war, you got to fight for the future war, and that the military-industrial complex makes the money off these giant ships and boats and jeeps that are from still the World War II mentality. But the new wars obviously are cyber, but they're drones. They said you can do more damage, 10,000 times more damage, with just drone after drone that costs pennies on the dollar compared to an aircraft carrier. I mean, the fact that using drones basically pushed away aircraft carriers from the strait, and we're backing down from drones. And the same thing happened in Ukraine, is that Russia's been holding back with drone technology, and America just is nowhere close to the drone warfare because all the money's going into these big armaments. So it's a fascinating point there. But with all of this, it just proves that America has lost its place in the world. But the beauty and why I put Trump in the asterisk as the best president is because he did it knowingly or not, whether he was tacoed out, whether he's just stupid, whether it was 5-6D chess, I don't know. But he was able to, it's like we went through this moment in time where America is now seen without its clothes on and maybe without the ultimate war that we're anticipating. I mean, it's very possible. And before I turn it over to you, I just want to end with a little description of this moment. My favorite movie of all time. Sorry, you're gonna go talk movies. Besides that,
Excalibur.
no, well, it's actually Xanadu, but don't tell anybody. But next to behind, secretly behind Excalibur, Xanadu. But Excalibur is my favorite movie, and I just bought the first released 4K disc set. Just came out. It's awesome. Looks great if you have a good TV. Anyway, in the beginning of the movie, it's fascinating because it starts with Arthur's father, whose name is Luther Pendragon. And a lot of people don't know that part of the story. But Luther was a very ambitious, warlord, and he was very charismatic. Again, you can see the parallel with Mr. Trump here. And so Luther's like, he's the guy that starts to unify all of the different warlords in the old feudal times of England, right? And this during the Dark Ages. It was all the Dark Ages because everyone was fighting against each other for plots of land and, the barbarism warlords. And so Luther was able to, with a lot of bloviating and warfare, to get everyone to capitulate and respect and bow down to him. And it finally came down to the last warlord, and he capitulated. He says, "I'll give you all the land to the sea if you'll pledge allegiance to me and bow down to my sword," and all that. And they did. And he was bequeathed Excalibur, Luther. He's the one who had Excalibur because he was the one to unify all of England. And so he had everything. He did what was never able to be done. He unified everybody. It's like what Trump did in a very unique way, in a very split society, culture and everything. That was what the magic of what Trump was able to do, to tap into the nationalism, or at least something that could unify America. Of course, sometimes he just did it by going with the 80% rule, whatever 80% of people think on an issue, and that was a very simple way to get to it as well. But anyway, Luther had everything. And then he saw the last warlord who pledged to himself, and at the dinner, he saw his wife, and his wife was smoking hot. And so Luther said to Merlin, "I will give everything up just to have one night with his wife," which comes out of a woman. And so, anyway, long story short, he wound up having his wife for one night, made a deal with the devil, as they say, and then the whole deal fell apart. And the warlord husband found out, and then the whole thing, it was like the truce was blown apart, and all the other warlords were fighting each other. The whole thing blew apart. And Merlin famously said, "You're not the one, Luther. You're not the one. You betrayed the Duke. You betrayed the wife. You betrayed your people. You're not the one." And so they went after Luther. He was supposed to be the unifier, and he was killed. But before he died, he took Excalibur. He goes, "No one shall wield Excalibur but me." And he then plunges it into the stone, which, obviously his son, who, he barely even knew, is the one that came back, and he was the one. It's like Luke Skywalker, just same thing. Anakin was the one that they thought was going to be the turning of the Force. He was the prophecy, and it turned out it was a sick prophecy. It wasn't what people intended, and it took a generation for Luke to come and bring it forward. So I kind of wonder, not to oversimplify current events, but it almost feels like that in a sense. People were Donald Trump, and even Nick Fuentes was saying this too. It's like, Trump did something very good. He gave a face to something that people were not allowed to show. People were scared to talk about certain things. We were still in the shadow. We're coming out of the shadow of years and years of propaganda and television networks and Operation Mockingbird, and the internet was just taking off with YouTube. And like we all predicted, like you said yourself, once the internet, you can have video, the gig's up. I know you famously have said that, and it's true. So all of this, and Ron Paul, and it's been a process, but Trump was the ultimate accelerator on this point. And yes, he betrayed his base. He's now all, taking a knee to the neocons and Israel, but now we can all see it. It's out of the closet. The world can see it. Luther is not the one. Trump is not the one. Now, I know this seems to segue to something Ernie will flip a lid on, which is, "So what are you going to say? You're going to vote for the next guy, Frank?" I know you're going to say it. And I don't know. I'm not saying it's voting or not. Is it Joe Kent? Is it someone else? Is it maybe not voting? Maybe everyone just decides this government stuff just doesn't work at all. Let's just all just go off into our farms. That would make Ernie really happy. Maybe that's what happens. But whatever it is, it's like we're at that moment of exposure, and the sword has been put into the stone. Trump is not the one. Everyone can see it. And like you said, completely correct, he has blown all of his political capital. He's a lame duck, and he still had at least a year to get stuff done. This has been the greatest missed opportunity in American politics, in my opinion, at least in our lifetime. Absolutely blown. But as frustrating as it is, I still see something greater that's unifying and deconstructing. And there's so many pieces to this. It's just, it's kind of beautiful in a way, and I'm very fascinated and curious to see what will happen. So maybe we'll have King Arthur next. We'll see. Any thoughts on that, Ernie? You feel the same way? You sense it?
In the end, freedom always wins. It just gets really messy first. I remember one of the early 2000, it was the first Freedom Summit that we had was 3 weeks after 9/11. Every year we'd have big names, come, and, a lot of people you guys know now, but, were not household names back then. Things like, Patrick Byrne and Cody Wilson, and Lou Rockwell, Ron Paul, Anthony Gregory, Harry Brown, Walter Block, Lou Rockwell, on and on and on and on. A lot of these guys, Peter Schiff. That's how a lot of these guys I know, and they'll come on, so they know our spiel and our audience. But there was a discussion that was a debate, and it was between Butler Schaefer, a constitutional law professor, and Vince Suprenowicz, the Las Vegas Review-Journal editor. And one of them was, we're always ratcheting towards more freedom. America, humanity, poverty is much less. People have been lifted out with capitalism. We have. The other side was, man, if you're in the Warsaw Ghetto in World War II, you're not convincing them or ratcheting it up anywhere. They're, the Jews in the Polish ghetto, they're, getting the crap beat out of them. It's a timing thing. When do you look? Who are you looking at? Well, of course, that's true. Who suffers the most when, but what does it impact have on the rest of the planet, or even that country, or that culture, or that, geographic location, or, what happens? I'm kind of lean to, it's a glass half empty, half full kind of thing. But I lean towards Butler Schaefer's view of humanity keeps on keeping on. They always, sooner or later, men are created by hard times. Men make decisions. Women support men that are decisive, that have the capability of providing a secure environment to raise children, to have families, to create a community. We are social beings. They have to change us. They have to, add a little chemical, take a little nutrient out, do whatever. That if it's just a itty bitty little thing, well, they wouldn't do that. That'd be wrong. Right. So what we've created is a planet, not a planet, certainly this country, but you go to Africa and you start talking about transitioning of men being women, where they're like, what kind of planet are you guys? What the hell are you talking about? So where are we going to have the next biggest threat or rising empire? It may be Africa. Now, then they get into, even Trump's coming out saying, low IQ Somalia, low IQ this, low IQ that. And then there was a group that went to do IQ testing in Africa to kind of prove them wrong. And whoa, man, the Africans, they were scoring a lot lower than they thought. But why? It's a cultural thing. Oftentimes, are there smart people of, color, indigenous tribes? Hell yeah, they freaking survived. They focused on what was important to them, keep breathing in and out and eating. But, how do you measure intelligence? A lot of times it's a cultural thing. Well, this before that. Oh, maybe in your culture, but in mine, we don't do it that way. So, well, you scored wrong. You did it wrong. So to me, it's more a processing power. It's like the CPU in your brain. How fast you can, how much memory you have. How many numbers can you hold in your head? That has been my determination of intelligence of people. The ones that are very, very smart can do math in their head, come up with a number, remember that number, put it into the next equation, process. They sit there and think, the answer is 42. This is, so I don't put a lot into IQ or how smart they are, what they know or don't know. Do they know how to feed themselves? Do they know how to not be like the Native Americans here in, any indigenous race around the world? They're always laying siege or warring with their neighbors or taking their stuff and whatever because, we're Vikings or Klingons. We accomplished by getting. We're the Roman Empire. They really made a great trained army to go and take your shit. That's what happens. Then they slave you into the salt mines of whatever the hell. So how do we advance? Advance where? For what? What good is it having humans on the planet? L. Neil Smith, he's a science fiction writer, libertarian, passed away a few years ago. He was made a really good point. The Earth has probably had to start over several times. You get bombarded early on in the early part of the solar system, just beating the crap out of it. Hopefully, you get a lot of water added, from comets or whatever. But you have it getting the crap beat out of it. Well, then you get, a long time for, 165 million years ago for tens of millions a year, yeah, some dinosaurs. Boom, we get hit by an asteroid or God, threw a lightning bolt, whatever the hell happened, and they're gone, okay? Well, then you may have, extinction level events and other things that happen. Well, right now, for the first time in the planet's history, the Earth has created its own antibody, and it's called human beings. We are the ones that are capable now to send a starship up to go nuke or blow up some asteroid that's going to take out the planet. For the first time, Earth has created life, intelligent life, that can protect it from outside, or has the chance to. And after we go out, whatever, eventually there'll be another one. Another civilization. Another will get better at it. Well, maybe we can, have stability on this planet long enough to be able not have to reform the entire planet again. So this is optimism. This is looking at the ratcheting of the role humanity plays. Not only everybody's going, oh, you're a virus, you're sucking the planet life out of, you're kind of destroying it. Yeah, well, we might be the only ones here to save it. Just saying. So I'm very supportive of Starship and, going, do I care about going to Mars? Not really. It's cool, but it's the capability of being able to keep me and my family lineage from evaporating in a mushroom cloud if I got hit by an asteroid. So this is kind of the optimistic view that I look at, is that humanity keeps on keeping on, that we are very capable to even create artificial intelligence that amplifies and magnifies our capability. But how far will that go? Are they the Cylons? Is it V'ger? We got to sterilize the planet of humans because they suck. Are we going to? These are the real questions that we should be asking ourselves. And to have robots, artificial intelligence, create massive universal high income, which they're trying to bribe us now, they're promising us that. You know, it's basic income. You're going to have high income. It's going to be Star Trek, and all you have to do is work to better yourself, and you want to get educated and watch, YouTube videos on how to do everything all the time. Oh, no, we just plug it in the back of your head like Matrix, and then you just know. Oh, we get a Neuralink. We'll interface with, kind of. So the future has enormous potential, but it has to be based on human principles that keep us breathing in and out and flourishing as social animals, that when we get together we can accomplish a lot of things, but never by force, never by coercion, and never by threat. You do the cooperation based on a mutual need and desire of just being liked, just being part of the crowd, being part of the club. You can be in it. You can live here. I don't want to live in any, I'll go, boring company tunnel into a mountain and, all you see is my doorway. It'd be a big Hobbitville. So these things are coming. How much damage on the way? How many mushroom clouds do we got to put up with? How extinction level events do we got to go through? Now, they'll create them because they need them. They'll go, oh, no, global warming. Oh, my God, the environment, we're all going to die. Therefore, you must give us all the power to rule and control and govern you. Well, there's always this collective of how they're going to use the masses, get a little bit of tax, a little bit of money, a little bit of resources, a little bit of a monopoly, a little bit to fund me. And if everybody gave me 5 minutes and $5, I could save the world and be rich, by the way. And we need to have socialism. Yeah. We'll be in charge of it because you don't know how to do it, right? So they're going, can technology solve it? Can we have a collectivist government now? Would we got the technical ability to manage it right and know all the variables? And we can, yeah, let's do that. Why is that a goal? Well, I tell you, one of the big things you're going to see in the news, based on what I've been saying for the last few minutes, they want to go after Tulsi and Lutnick. Howard Lutnick is one of these guys that's at the middle of the Epstein stuff. He's going to have to testify next month or they don't like that. Trump is ready to cut him loose because it's going to get all over him. And so this Lutnick thing may not be around as long. And is that good or bad thing? Well, he's been at the core. I mean, like a next door neighbor of Epstein. Family partying on his island. He has been at the core of what? Of the financial. Of the who rules everybody. Now, he wanted to be Secretary of the Treasury, and they made him Secretary of Commerce because it's just a little too close to home of no. So there is, when I talk about Trump, the movie, that's got to be, like Mission Impossible, number 8 or something. I mean, oh my God. There is so much going on here in opposition, in support of, infiltration. It's all being laid bare to the American people that they can glean the truth from this stuff. So when you see opposition to guys like Chuck Schumer, or Alan, all these, AOC, I don't give a crap, but they're all part of the same thing.
Hey, Ernie, what's your take with Tulsi? I mean, do you really think she's still standing to her values? And if so, Don't you think she's harming her brand more by staying in, or do you think she's building it for when she goes? I have mixed feelings about that strategy. What do you think with her?
She's in the position that General Mike Flynn was in. They went after Flynn. They just now had, Trump pardoned him, but then there was some, civil action he had sued. Anyway, he won a settlement just a few weeks ago. He got, I don't know, $1 million. I mean, it was a paltry sum for what they did to him. But she knows that they will go after her just like they did to him. What is it she's going to say or do? Anything that she shares outside of what they're going to prosecute her and, within an inch of her life. And she probably has, pretty stable marriage and not a cross-dressing husband or whatever. So, she's probably all right there. But what I see is what I have anticipated that's going on is and this is a perfect example of what I talk about with the British Parliament. When things get this bad, all of a sudden there's a rise of an alternative party. There's UKIP. There's what's his face? Not Assange. What was his name? The guy that was part of European Union that was UKIP, the Independence Party. Not Assange. What is his name? You know what I'm talking about? The guy was all buds with Trump. The conservative.
Farage.
Yeah, Farage. So you get the Farage characters. You get the alternative. You get, vote for us, pick us. They get seats and probably, it's all fixed now. We're in, and then you have a lot of the bad guys that are in the other part will go over there anyway. I'm seeing the same thing happen here. There's going to be the bureaucracy. There's going to be the departments. There's going to be the salary. Do we make $1 gazillion? They have these guys they put up, before Congress. How much do you make? You're making like $1 million as a taxpayer-funded federal employee. How the hell did that happen? Well, because it's the standard of I'll take it. Well, tell us how much. Well, I ain't saying. Well, let me tell you how much you make. This is the kind of stuff that's going on. What I see happening is there is build-up of opposition. We're here to fix. Here we are to save the day. Now, keep in mind, who are the people that's going to do that? Names like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, Tulsi Gabbard. J.D. Vance is being set up for this. Who was in opposition to the Iran war? Well, of course, it's got to be their guy that was in opposition, the soldier of whatever. Well, he's all buds up with, Palantir and Thiel and so on. So, where's that going? So none of these guys. That's why I'm like, you're still voting? You think you're going to have a voice in what's coming? You think that it's going to be in our interest as American people, as human beings on this planet, to delegate your authority to something or somebody else? Is that what you think?
Well, Ernie, you know what? I know I'm not trying to change your mind. Obviously, I'm not going to bother with that. But you have to at least admit that voting does make a difference. We just saw it. And wait, just hold on before you flip out. The fact that Trump tacoed out. Wait. The fact that Trump tacoed out, now maybe we don't know exactly why, but I think a lot of it has to do with his poll numbers, realizing he has no support, and that he's dug himself a hole so bad he will not be able to get the midterms. He probably thought, okay, I'll get this over quick. Yeah, but Megyn doesn't like me, Megyn Kelly and Tucker, for right now. But, I still have the summer. I'll hit the circuit. I'll do my Trump rallies. I'll get everyone back again, just a nick of time, and we'll be able to get most of the House, the Senate, where we're free and clear. But all of a sudden, he's seeing just how decimated he is. And hence, my point, though, is as ineffectual as you see voting and many in this audience, including me, for many reasons. Okay, I'm not as bad as Ernie, but I certainly am not, I can't wait to vote and get my sticker, trust me. However, it was the result of the upcoming vote that, in my opinion, had a profound influence on Trump ending this war. So you can't say voting has no effect.
It had absolutely no effect in him starting it.
True. That I'll give you that one. Absolutely.
Then what's the difference? Yeah, but he ended what he started. But he started it.
I'm not giving him
credit.
credit.
What are you looking at?
I'm not giving him credit.
What are you looking at, Frank? We are at war with Iran, side by side with Israel. I'm like, oh, but that doesn't matter. He ended the war. What kind of brain damage do you have?
I'm not giving him credit. I'm just saying that, someone who is looking at, just like Netanyahu, if the war ends, he's going to prison. If Trump doesn't get his numbers back, he's going to be impeached, maybe worse. Who the hell knows? Because no one's going to be around to protect them this time from jail, including the Israeli money, perhaps, in this case.
Okay,
all
this
I'm
is one
saying
thing
is that I think from Trump's mind, maybe not you, but in Trump's mind, the upcoming election and the polls and what's going to lead to in that election is probably affecting his decisions. That's my point.
Netanyahu's affecting his decisions. That's what happened.
Well, that's what happened, yeah.
My thing, well, he's susceptible to that.
True.
What have we been talking about for a decade? He is so narcissistic. It's all about his ego. It's all about respect my authority and respect, and I got the badge. He's weak. He's demonstrated weakness. Now, you may have a method of doing this cone, his old turdy thing of, blustering and bullshit and bomb you back into whatever, and kind of, man, wow. I'm so done. But the one thing that I remember us talking about in the last month or three was about the midterms. Well, here comes Frank. He's like, oh, he's lost the midterms. And it's Democrats, man. They're going to Democrats. I go, it's too early for that. It's whenever you have a president running, it's whoever's, Elizabeth Warren, she was the first out of the gate back in from the 24. I guarantee it ain't her, Because why? Because they always bring this crap up. They always got, the ones that feel, is it Newsom? Is it AOC? Is it none of these guys? Whoever they bring up, it's got this early, nothing. Right. So now do we get a Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey ticket? Do we get a Tulsi JD ticket? Do we get all four of them running for the nomination and see what works out? Who do you trust? So this is, and I'm like, you're still voting? I don't give a shit what they come up with, no matter how much hopium they throw at us. It is the concept of delegating authority to others around the world. That's why your patient is getting asked about Trump all over the world. Why? Because they're governed by him. And his edicts and his policies and his trade negotiations and his threats of war and peace and whatever. People are sick to shit of that. How about my own education, my own industriousness, my own property rights, my own occupying wherever the hell I'm living and doing? What about that? What about that? What about it? Nope. Got the midterms. So what did I say? I'm going, it's too early. Midterms, they don't mean shit. You know how much crap they can do and change and general public opinion if we did the whatever the hell that'll happen, starting July, August? By the time they have early balloting, and then you do this SAFE Act, that we're going to, not have the mail-in, that you could count mail-in ballots after Election Day? Nope, got to have that. What? Do they do executive orders just for us to know the bullshit that they're doing so that we can have consternation and opinion about the elections? Or is it, it doesn't matter as long as we get rid of Trump and friends, or I'm so past caring. I don't care. Again,
it's not about you caring. All I'm saying is Trump does care. Politicians care about votes for whatever their reason, right?
Because they care about people caring, and they don't care. Increasingly, don't care.
Agreed.
Agreed. There was, all right, I'll give you an example. When 9/11 happened, there were more people in the streets around the world, including Iran, around the world protesting a war that has not even started yet, more than at the peak of the Vietnam protest. More than the peak of the Vietnam protest in America and around the world, there were more people in opposition to a war that hadn't even started yet after 9/11. Do they care? They don't fucking care. So when you go, yeah, well, he cares about what the people really win.
No, wait. I did not say that, Ernie. You're putting words in my mouth again when it comes to the voting thing. I didn't say he cares about the people. I'm saying that for him to stay in power and or perhaps stay out of jail, right? He's looking at, just like Netanyahu, he has to look at the polls to see what chances he has to remain to keep his power. I mean, the biggest mistake he made was going into this war before the midterms. He should have done it after, as most presidents tend to get embroiled in foreign affairs after they're a lame duck, right? But he was convinced, like this New York Times article says, and again, Trump was an idiot with this. He took the bait from Netanyahu, the whole bit, but he was convinced that it can happen quick. He got false confidence in the Venezuela deal, and he figured, okay, I still have close to a year to make up, whatever damage it does to my polls before the midterms. Bibi is forcing my hand now, and that's a whole nother thing about why and how he got conned into it now. But that was his folly. Now, granted, not that I wanted him ever to go in, even after the midterms. I'm just saying I'm putting myself in Trump's mind, not what I personally think, not what Ernie thinks. I'm just talking about how Trump, it's all about polls, and it's about watching the popularity and for the votes. And he's been a master at it. And I just would, can't imagine you would disagree with just the point. Maybe I could be wrong, but I stand by that the polls and the upcoming election has a lot to do with what Trump's moves are. I agree with you. It didn't seem like he's watching polls when he launches the war, when he said, I'm the peace candidate. Where's my Nobel Peace Prize? I'm anti-war. I mean, he completely blew
I didn't get my peace prize? Well, watch me be a war president now.
Yeah,
he actually said that.
No,
said
exactly.
It.
Oh, yeah, he's completely gone, lost. He is. I can't wait to see what the last chapter of the Trump legacy is going to be, because it's not over. I mean, we still have Trump the movie. We have to do this in a miniseries.
Where is the president that goes, you're free, I'm going golfing? Is this thing on?
I don't know. I mean, do you think Thomas Massey's that president? Maybe he's not.
Hell yeah.
You think he is? All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he still follows the
all the more reason he doesn't want to be president.
Exactly.
He built his own, he's an MIT, freaking engineer, graduate, genius, built with his own hands, his own house out on the whatever off-grid kind of whatever guy.
He's amazing.
I mean, this is really, and they're going, how much money are they going to spend against him? Tens of millions, gazillions, whatever they think they can get away with. They'll do election fraud for the Republicans to get rid of him. So this is for the important reason. What I found out in a lot of my research, I was like, how do they get away with this stuff? All of the there are people. Where are the whistleblowers? Where are the people? Later you find out there's a shitload of them, but and they're getting prosecuted now, some of them. But it was all around a justified, and it was mostly Republican. Everybody blamed the Democrats, all that. It was Republican. During the 90s, it was Republican. Why? The reason that I go, what is it? Well, they hired a bunch of criminals, felons, in jail, and they needed scumbag, sociopath, minimum job requirement to do election fraud, and then they bribed and whatever, different things. But there was one issue that they used in conservative circles, that if it can save one life, and I heard this over and over, especially with the Catholic influence, it was abortion. If we can get another Republican, we need to, not get that commie socialist, baby killer, whatever the hell. We need to, twist the elections to be able to done gerrymander to get pro-life candidates in there to save the babies. Do you think they give a shit about life, children, abortion, pro-life. Hell no. It was just the excuse. And you could see it through the people that were advocating this stuff. So I'm going, I have so many reasons not to see voting as a solution. But the most important one is the delegation of an individual human being authority to somebody else to influence, run your life. If you're going to do that, you better be doing it local.
Right. Well, it's a principal position. I mean, that's what it is where you're coming from. It's a principal position. And, you can't not
the principle of what? You own yourself, which is why we did Libertas on Earth.
Yeah, well, that's just the ultimate debate that gets endless between the diehard libertarians and libertarian tangentials and the rest.
No, it's between people that want human beings to survive and to thrive. This is a threat on our continued existence in the form of a mushroom cloud. Nuclear war, comply no more. One of our audience members, of James Corbett and I, we were coming up with this stuff, and they sent that to me, and I'm like, that's it. Nuclear war, comply no more. Give me a mushroom cloud for any fucking reason. I don't care how whatever mistake did kind of sort of justified something. I get a mushroom cloud, try and get me to fill out another government paperwork thing. Try and get me to pay taxes. Try and get me to do income tax. Try and get me to try. Go ahead, try. I'm 65. I got it going. I'm willing to fall on the sword on this one. No, I don't have to do anything. I just not do what they want.
All right.
Well, they're going to, but what they want to do, they want to go after the people that advocate it, not the ones that do it, the ones that are advocating it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how open I'll advocate, but I ain't doing it. I want my soul to, make it. I mean, this is so bad, and all of the enthusiasm around MAGA, Trump, all that stuff, every single one of the reasons eliminated. It's gone. It's done.
Yeah. Oh, no,
and you could see it when he was appointing all of his cabinet. He would, deep state, he's taking the rock stars of the deep state. It's so, I don't know what happened. I don't know what the inside, his head narrative of somebody convinced, whatever, but this is not it. There was an American dream, and this is not it.
For a lot of,
this is not it.
Yeah, and also don't forget the big tech bros are all showing up at his inauguration. All of a sudden, Facebook and Amazon, Bezos is there. Like the people who hated him helped ban him from their sites, and he's there. He's there during that ceremony. It's a lot of people are thinking that at least word on the street a bit is the conversion, so to speak, or the change in Trump happened after the assassination attempt. Which of course also has not been investigated, and Joe Kent admitted that as well. How that whole investigation was prematurely closed. Nothing to see here, even when he got in there.
Look anymore.
You will not look. And word on the street is because a foreign government, whatever that government might be, was involved somehow with the Butler shooting. At least that's what his thinking is. So, it just keeps you, but the change seemed to be when some people are like looking back, when did he really start to change? Was after that. Now, for many people, they thought that's when he found God. And that's when Trump is now seeing himself as, okay, I'm here for a purpose, and that's the narrative that was a good one to sell for a campaign, especially. But it's like, well, maybe that was the threat. That was the equivalent of, showing you the JFK file and saying, see that picture? Just a reminder. Like maybe that's where it was, or maybe there's something beyond that. Hey, look, I want to make a prediction dealing with the election, which I know since we're already having your blood pressure up a little bit, and we all know Ernie's not going to vote. And I'm not saying I'm going to vote. I'm just throwing this out. I think what's going to happen, and my predictions are, let's say I'm way over 60% in a lot of my predictions, but this one, I think Trump definitely is going to get blown out in the midterms. Probably, I'm not sure if he'll completely lose the Senate enough where he could be thrown out of office. I haven't done the math on that about how many Senate seats are actually up. He could lose every Senate seat up and still not have enough votes for him to be thrown out, which I don't think probably will happen because just the way the terms come up. But it still might happen because, and I want to throw
doesn't matter, and I don't care.
because I want to throw a question to you in a minute. I don't want to get bogged on this one yet, but that is how Nixon eventually was removed from office. He wasn't thrown out from the Senate, but his own people turned on him. I don't want to get into this one yet, but since you're an old man compared to me, at least you're alive a bit longer. You're still a kid. But I want to get in that in a second. But my prediction is that he's going to get decimated in the midterms, not just him, but the Republican Party. I think the Republican Party is going to be taught a lesson at such a deep level. You have Nick Fuentes leading the charge on it, although, there's many, many others. It's not just Nick. And more podcasters are starting to come. Heck, even Alex Jones, they're talking about, completely decimating the Republican Party. If you have to, the debate is, do you not vote and do an Ernie, which I'm sure will make you happy, or do you vote Democrat for the first time in your life just to overtly say done, and we want these people swept out. And many of them might leave on their own accord because they see already Republicans are like rats off a ship now. For a lot of like local House seats and all these other seats, they see the handwriting on the wall. Why would you spend your nest egg that you've been, you're a rich banker or a lawyer or whatever, and now you're going to make your play running for office? You're thinking this is going to be the MAGA year, and you see the backlog, the backfiring, and you say, why am I going to ask my friends for millions of dollars to run when there's going to be a blowout? So already, the whole party's collapsing there. And they deserve to. And I think the only way to get these last neocons and the Fox News crowd and buy a few extra years for the older population, 55 and over, who still are living in the old world watching Fox, for them to die out or just whatever. So they're going to have a Democrat sweep. And the Democrats, and I think a lot of people are not thinking the Democrats are the solution. It's more just a protest vote of the ultimate FU and betrayal about Donald Trump, or just people who always hated Trump and they just hate him even more. By the way, if any of you guys want some free entertainment, get the popcorn. You got to put on James Carville's daily rants. I mean, it's just comical, man. Make sure it's not at work. It's not safe for work, but. Oh, my God, Ernie, you got to check out James Carville. He's on fire. Yeah, the Raging Cajun. But anyway, I think what's going to happen is that the Democrats...
Well, you got to tell people who Carville is. Carville is a Democrat operative, consultant, election campaign guy, front to over decades.
He got Clinton elected. Yep.
So he was definitely a Clinton guy. He's been portrayed in different movies, whatever. But he's getting old.
Oh, yeah.
And he was Marville or Mayville, whatever. His wife was his equivalent Republican.
It's like Mary Matlin or something.
Yeah. So there was the Democrat doing all this stuff and vote for us and and there was the Republican doing all this stuff and vote for us, and they were married. And that tells you how bullshit this whole thing is.
No, absolutely. But, I have to say, every once in a while, I always miss and love getting some Carville. He just gets the blood going. And he's comical. He's great. But anyway, but we're seeing, we're going to see, as Ernie, I think Ernie's going to the bathroom here. We're going to see the Democrats sweep everywhere across the country. It might be one of the largest sweeps in Democrat history. I think is going to happen. But now I know Ernie's going to say, "Oh, great, you voted for the Democrats. You think they're going to change it?" Of course not. Some Democrats are going to think that's the way. A lot of them will. But I think most conservatives, it's a protest vote. And for a lot of the anti-establishment Democrats, like the Young Turks groups, most of the younger Democrats, they don't trust their own Democrat Party either. I mean, they're in the same boat that the Republican Party has been in, where Trump was thought to be the solution, Obama was thought to be the solution before. Now both party bases, especially the younger crowd, have both been disillusioned and betrayed. So this is, you understand, it's not just a Republican or Trump thing. This is societal from both wings of the party. Libertarians have been felt this way for decades. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the club. But that's what we're going to see. Everyone's switched to the Democrats, and the Democrat establishment is going to think, wow, we have all the power, and they will. And they're going to wield it, just in a way that is going to, maybe make the Biden administration seem like he was a libertarian. I mean, I'm already batting down the hatchets and worried for what's going to happen. And the blowback on Trump people and the MAGA world. I mean, because, and this is the other problem, they're blaming MAGA now. They're saying MAGA is the one that got us in the war. And yes, you could argue that's true. The thing is, the original MAGA are not the ones who wanted the war. But the Democrats don't understand this. To them, Trump, MAGA, you guys are all Hitler people, and look what look what happened. Just you invent and tell me it doesn't matter in a second. But that's where I think this is going to play out, is that the left is going to blame everything that Trump has done on the original nationalist movement, which was not the one that voted for what Trump is now. It's the Mark Levin wing. But do you think some regular Democrat knows or cares about the different wings and the takeover of the MAGA and what Trump's brain lobotomy, what happened? I mean, they don't give a crap about any of that. So they're going to take over and be just, a monolithic force of getting rid of rights. But the Democrat young people and I think independents are just going to throw the towel in when they see completely, obviously, full display that it just doesn't matter. And hence, I think you're going to see a reconverging of these two wings that I've been talking about on the show for a while, of the independents, the young Democrats, the young Republicans, the Nick Fuentes, suddenly hanging out with the Young Turk people. I mean, it's just unbelievable watching this new coalition. Something is brewing about it. And I think maybe what will occur is after that election, you have 2 years until the general, 2028. And if there's enough anger to what the Democrats were doing, both parties, I mean, the whole thing, they're just so fed up. I wonder, and this is kind of my main prediction here, is if Elon Musk, with the money he's had, and he's been screwed over by both parties, he's seen in the sausage in many ways, he has the money to do it. I wonder if he will be sort of like the new Ross Perot, and he wind up creating a new party just to shed off both parties. I know, Irene, it's like, oh, great, voting harder. I already hear it. This is not about what you should do, Ernie, as an individual, or but giving your agency to a vote. We already know our positions on it. I'm just saying what I think is going to happen. All right, just to be clear. That's what I think might very well happen as I'm watching these new moves.
Well, narrow this down to what you think is going to happen, because I need to respond. You think what?
I think that buildup I was mentioning is that we're going to see
I need what you think is going to happen.
These two wings of disenfranchised younger voters from both parties, plus independents and maybe even libertarians, whoever, to converge into a new party for the first time, a true monolithic new party that will probably decimate in numbers a dwindled shell of a Republican Party and a Democrat Party that's the leftover establishment. And in order to get this party over the finish line for all the ballot access BS, is that you need a person like Ross Perot with enough money to buy yourself on the ballots within a year or two, and that would be Elon Musk. So I'm kind of really thinking there's going to be a new coalition with Elon and a potential for a third party by 2028 to be on the ballot. If not, if they're kept out and kicked out from all the shenanigans, then guess what also happens? You expose completely once and for all how none of this matters and how the people are not in charge at all. And then whatever happens after 2028, when a true third party is, well, true, I mean, libertarians are, but if the full coalition gets knocked down by just some BS Supreme Court made up rule, oh, you just can't do that, we're in charge and you're not, so suck it. And then the whole world sees what libertarians have seen for decades. Then who knows? We're in a new place, and maybe we'll be where you want to be. But that's my prediction: is Elon and possibly a third party blend for 2028. Go ahead, invent. I know you have to vent the whole voting harder. Do you not pay attention, Frank? Go ahead, get it out of your system.
I'm just happy that you know. The reason I say it doesn't matter and I don't care is because it doesn't matter and I don't care, okay? Let me tell you why it doesn't matter. Sooner or later, humanity, human beings, critical thinking, if you're not freaking poisoned or, in a cage or threatened with death, dying, and destruction, which can happen and does happen. You look at Europe, you look at Ireland, you look at London, you look at United Kingdom, you look at Canada, you look at Australia. They are heavy-handed of coming. But all that does is convince those people, you know what? I think we need more guns. I think we need, to have what America needs is not only the capability of defending yourself, but the mind that comes with the capability to do it. You see a lot of manufactured protest, a lot of manufactured bust-in Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and the left progressive of trans, whatever the hell. It's theater. It's kabuki theater. I saw it in Puerto Vallarta. Same thing. It's just theater. You get the actual some war, and then you get big theater. But it's theater. It's all theater. Theater. It's total bullshit. It is not the truth. What's the first casualty in war? The truth. Guarantee it. That's why I always say, you got to wait 3 weeks. Blah, 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 3 weeks later. It's 3 weeks after they started the war in Iran. What did you start learning? The truth. When you say the prediction that Frank make very clear is that, well, there's going to be a protest from MAGA. They don't like it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, we got to destroy the Republican Party. It has to be, wiped off the planet and start over and do an America First party of Nick Fuentes, wants to be Secretary of State, whatever you got. And you have Alex Jones abandoning Trump and doing all that. Because he was so much against everything he promised and was advocated by Alex, what choice did he have? So you do the predictions, the Republicans, and they're going to lose no matter what is said. It's always elections are local, or at least local fraud. So you have all these congressional seats. Why do you think it is? It's like 90 whatever % retention. What's behind that? How does that happen? You have the entire government is freaking screwing up. They're not my guy. So when you come out and you say, well, the Republicans have lost it, they're going to go based on what historical record? When? When does that happen? You might get a closely divided, it's 49-51, or, it's 215 to 220 or something. It's just, I'm like, this is, it's all a game, and all the seating charts and the left, right, and the red, blue, and all, it's total bullshit. It's they, them, those versus not them.
Well, Ernie, are you
they're not club, and you're not in it, Frank. There is no being in it. You can't count on the people going to bypass this election, participate in it, vote for the Democrat. I got a protest vote. It's totally screwed up, and it is made that way. You're not going to get a representation of people that is going to manifest itself in some way for any candidate, any party, anything. Same with Parliament in UK. I've seen it over and over. It's wishful thinking, and there is absolutely no evidence, no history that you are correct. Never. So why do you keep believing this?
Believing what? I'm just giving a prediction.
People are going to rise up and pick the other solution, not this guy and that guy.
It's a prediction, Ernie.
How it's going to make a difference. So, what difference is it going to make?
I didn't say it's making a difference. Well, you keep confusing. You have a hard time if I happen to say it's raining outside, or I think it's going to rain tomorrow.
Yeah, blah, blah,
that
blah.
Somehow you
point.
think I love rain, and I'm not saying that. I'm just giving a prediction of how I think the American political system.
You're thinking that there is going to be a Democratic resurgent and Democratic Party, and on the chart, it's going to be more blue than it's going to be red. Because they pissed off the people, whatever. And I'm going, what the real event that I'm anticipating, my prediction is there's going to be much fewer numbers of voters in this coming election.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's existential crap.
No,
We don't
that's
vote
fine.
down.
That's
Oh my
fine.
God! I go, no, they don't care, and they know it doesn't
Ernie,
matter.
what I was trying to say when I interrupted you there, and I apologize, but is that, do you not sense, and maybe you're so close to it because you've been fighting this for so long, and maybe I'm taking something for granted. Like, are you not aware that the average American is starting to feel like you? I mean, I'm hoping you
Of
see
course,
that.
there's going to be
All right,
fewer
because
numbers.
you act like it's not happening. Now, if their manifestation of that frustration is to do for the first time what they've never done, they've always been Team Eagles, Team Miami Dolphins, Democrat, but right, just to get out of that mindset, to get to the point where I'm so ticked, I don't mind allowing my own party that I went door knocking for to burn. I'm going to vote for Democrat. Now, in your mind, you're like, I don't understand. They're back to voting. No, voting doesn't matter, and Frank doesn't get it. And that's where you go. I'm seeing this. Exactly. I know how you. I know exactly how your brain goes with this. I'm pointing out that it's an evolution to where you're at. I know you're always skip to the end at the finish line. Where are you guys at? I've been saying this is a process, and my God, we're so far removed from where we were when we started the Trump report. I mean, when it was just Sean Hannity, supposedly.
We're exactly where I said we were going to be. We're exactly as I predicted it. We're exactly, which is why I wanted to do the Trump report. I'm going to watch this. Well, this happened.
Yeah, it's great. It's great because now you have Americans, most of America, on both sides, and I'm not trying to exclude, third-party people or more independent thinkers, but you've got both major parties, 55 years and younger, the future, all together starting to see it just doesn't matter. Like, I don't understand why you're upset about that. It's like their manifestation of it is different ways. A lot of it is not voting or backing out. A lot of it is people maybe just disconnecting. A lot of it is people moving from the country, which we covered last week. And a lot of it is people saying, well, what else can I, instead of not voting, they think they're doing double damage by just sticking to the other side to be able to at least teach the one a lesson. And then, right, now you may not agree with that strategy, but all of those tactics I just said, moving, not voting, voting the opposite party, okay? And then the voting word always gets up your craw because you get hung up on it. But these are all manifestations, expressions of the mainstream people now of all sides
What
coming
does
together,
voting represent
starting
to you,
to act
Frank?
like you.
What does voting represent to you?
Public opinion. General public opinion. And it's a manifestation of it.
Is it?
Yes, absolutely.
I beg to differ. It is
Absolutely.
not. It is not. It is not. You have, of all the people, you got 350 million people in this country. How many of them are not felons? They're between the ages of 18 and whatever, and they're citizens in the United States. How many? Well, you go, I don't know, half of that. Let's say it's 180 million or something. Okay. So how many of them actually are registered? That's about half of them. How many of them actually go and vote? Well, I mean, it gets down into the teens. You're going, this country, general public opinion is manifested in voting. Since when? I can do the numbers right now. It's a fraction.
I didn't say it's absolute, Ernie. I'm saying it's a manifestation of it. That's all. It's like
one that doesn't matter. One that just demonstrates how many people are supportive of We're going to delegate authority that I have as a human being to these guys over here, and even though you didn't do it, they're going to rule you too. Get over it. That is going away. That is done. I'll tell you what's going on. Let me go ahead and include this.
All right.
This I want people to look at this. Let me pull up the camera here next to my crap. I got to put my glasses on. I can't even see the button. Okay, this is and boom. This right here, I got this because I wanted Donna to read it. All right, because I remember when this started in the late 70s, early 80s. It was Israel's, takeover of, started with the Reagan administration, with, after Vietnam, they were doing all this, the oil embargoes in the 70s. You had, the Soviet Union invasion of Afghanistan. I mean, all this stuff is going on. This book, The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey, over 15 million copies sold. This was, and I've interviewed him and I read this book. This is a guide. It is a script. It is how they're going to justify and do whatever it is that they're doing with this war in the Middle East, bringing about Armageddon, having, Israel the focus of the universe of the New Jerusalem, whatever the hell they're doing. They're following that. This is why we had Andrew Stremick on, our friend, that was on, was it last week or the week before? And we talked about this. I'm going, look, that's the script. All this other stuff is bullshit. They want to create a new world order. And that order is they, them, those are in charge, and you are a freaking slave, and, get used to it. And any effort that people will make voting, supporting, podcasting, making their preference, whatever, that includes delegating power to somebody else to run your life for you, that is the problem. You're not taking responsibility for your own life. You do not believe that you own yourself, that you owe whatever. Rule 1, don't be a dick to your family, your community, your town, your whatever. But to think that you're going to delegate thousands of miles away, they go, well, we're going to have, a local election. I remember in The Patriot with Mel Gibson, he goes, tell me, what's the difference between having, one man rule us from 3,000 miles away or 3,000 a mile away? I'm not sure which one's worse, but they're both bad. This is where we're at. It's a humanity realization that we own it, which is why we did Libertas.Earth. You're going to see that this is going to have an enormous impact. Why? Because they've been in such opposition to that concept of self-ownership. They do everything they can to ban it, to obfuscate it, to deplatform it, to whatever, and it keeps coming back up. So we created a mechanism by which they can't do that anymore. Now what? So this is, it just infuriates me for you to come after all the decade of this stuff, for you to go, yeah, but they're going to vote and they're going to manifest in the vote, and this is the people that are going to be in charge then, and they're going to, and Trump's looking at that and, seeing how not. No, they're not. They got a script. There's their script. They need thermonuclear we're going to have, and the eyes consumed from their sockets and the flesh from their bones, and then we're all going to be in charge and Palantir, and we got the technology to run it, and we're going to rule you and get over it, but you get a really nice gilded cage, and here's universal high income with moon bases and Mars outpost. Yeah. What if the whole goal was freedom? Freedom's the answer. What's the question? What is it, through me, witness, parable, testimony. Even Christ didn't take, Romans legions and make you be a believer. Now, of course, other governments had done that. They're still doing it. Oh, you don't believe our way? Renounce your faith or we kill you. And then they kill them, which is going on right now in Africa. It's like necromongers from, Chronicles of Riddick, Vin Diesel movie. They will convert or kill. Will convert to what? Their collective, whatever the hell it is. America. So I am, God, every time you say, well, the general public, they're going to get, no, they're not. They are increasingly coming to the realization that they are a controlled livestock animal in a cage, in the shear chute. They're going to keep taking from us as long as they can, and they already have for multiple generations in the future. You owe this $40 trillion debt. Got it on you? When they did the TARP, we had signed billboards, 9 locations around the valley, big 14 by 48 billboards. And one had a baby in the womb. Freedom's Phoenix, it's not their debt. It's not my debt, or whatever the slogan was. Then we had another one that had a few babies. They had barcodes on their butt, and they were being scanned over a grocery scanner. It's not my debt. Everybody thought it was like an anti-abortion thing, which I let them think. I mean, whatever, I don't care. It's not their debt. What do you mean? FreedomsPhoenix.com. Go check it out. So we got a lot of traffic with that. It was right when the TARP happened, because I knew what they were going to do. They were going to have this big, giant bailout and pass it on to my first grandchild that was in my daughter-in-law's womb at the time. And I knew that the parents, my son and daughter-in-law, they didn't know they were going to do a bailout. They couldn't have made a decision, well, we're not going to conceive a child now because, you know, they're going to enslave it and whatever. So it's in the womb and they passed this. I think it was like $60,000 to each human being on the planet being born. Got it on you? Are you going to write us a check? Oh, no, we're going to put it in the future. So this is changing, and it's not about voting. It is going to be an abandonment of this delegation of authority, because they're not going to be able to feed you. It's going to be famine. They're already starting it. Already starting it. It's, what do I always say? It's going to be a food thing. How are you going to vote with the food thing? Give me more universal basic wheat? I mean, you know what? This is going to change much more than anything that's going to happen at a voting booth. Much more than an election cycle. Much more. Will it be a civil war? Will it be battles? I'm afraid, like what happened with COVID, they locked us down. Made up whatever the hell they make up. What'd they find out? That the vaccines and so on, causing all kinds of health problems. We're in trouble. So who's going to, I'm unvaccinated sperm, cash only. I mean, here we go. So I am looking at a vastly different revolution, a true revolution that we're overdue for. Here it comes, and anybody talking about voting does not understand the gravity of what's coming. It is so going to overwhelm elections. It's going to overwhelm banks. It's going to overwhelm cash. It's going to overwhelm relationships with countries. It's going to be the dismantling of NATO, the dismantling of the United Nations, the dismantling of the mindset people have to delegate authority to Uncle Sam. This is going to be much larger than people realize. And when we started doing the Trump report, I knew this. So that's why it doesn't matter, and I don't care, because this doesn't matter. What should we care about? Sustaining our own lives and that of our community and our family. If you're not focused on that, stinking thinking, you're doing it freaking wrong, and you're going to be roadkill on the road to serfdom. Just saying. And this is the point that I've been making over and over. And you can go, okay, I understand your position, Ernie, and done, and my position is, but don't you think, Ernie, and what do you think about it? You ask me what I think. I keep telling you what I think. That's what I think. No, nothing you can say is going to change what I think. I've been doing this for decades, and see, this is where we're going. Now, you can have your opinion, but you're not going to change mine. Just saying.
Now, the audience has been listening to this, and the audience knows very clear I have not in any way tried to change your opinion. I even said that in the beginning, but you don't hear that part of it. And this is look, you're my buddy with this. I'm just being honest. This is how I kind of see what might be happening. Many times we all have. I don't know. I actually don't know what mine is, and I'm open to whatever my thing is. So feel free when I get done my discussion here. But how there's some people on the left, or just very bleeding heart people, right? And you talk about, you say a fact. You say there was how many illegal aliens that came into the country, right? You're just saying a fact. But yet, a lot of people can just handle a fact. It's a fact. Okay, these number of illegals have come in. Maybe you do a comparison to how many last year, or maybe it's increased, maybe it's decreased, whatever. But then there's people you can talk with who get this, who have an emotional attachment to this, and you state the fact, and in their mind, and we've all heard them, they hear you say, I hate brown people, white people power, and we need to make America, we got to make America white again, back to Eisenhower years, and you're a racist, you're a bigot, and you're sitting here confounded because all you just said is, according to the government stats, there's X number of illegals here. Right, and yet there's certain people they apply intention and they read into like because they maybe they've been attacked, they themselves feel like they've been a victim of racism or whatever it is, and they just go off. The same thing with Zionists, especially Jewish Zionists. Right, you can sit back and God, Megyn Kelly ran into this publicly. That's what turned her. This is what turned Candace Owens. They both got a taste of it. You're sitting there, you're having a conversation, let's say with a room of people, and you're just talking about, hey, I love Excalibur. It's my favorite movie. And Ernie's like, yeah, mine's The Patriot, which, by the way, is another. I think yours is The Patriot, right? Is that your favorite movie? I forget which one is your favorite. You got a few good ones there. But,
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that was up there. But, Ernie goes, oh, The Patriot's my favorite. And we're just sitting there all talking around with a group of people, and we say, yeah, and we're talking about Hollywood, and someone says, yeah, Hollywood makes really good movies, and, there's a lot of Jewish people that are in Hollywood, and, yeah, they must have a really good eye for making movies, I mean, it's a fact that, there's Jewish people are very overrepresented in the overall demographics of America in Hollywood. It's a fact. It doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, to me, it's like, hell, they make good movies. Like I've given half my income.
In positions of influence.
I've had half my money probably go to George Lucas. Through the years, I'm afraid to say. So, it's like, hey, but yet you can you're just talking a fact. You're just mentioning something. But yet, if there's a Zionist, especially if they happen to be maybe of the Jewish background, perhaps, and I don't want to pigeonhole there, but we all know this happens. All of a sudden, what are you saying that all Hollywoods are just controlled by the Jewish group and that's a trope and you're an anti-Semite and it's people like you and you've got that latent gene of anti-Semitism and you just don't see it and it's people like you are going to vote for Hitler and it's like all you did is just say something. But again, there's certain issues or people who maybe come from. I'm not trying to say victim class in this case, like that's a trope. I'm just pointing out that maybe there's reasons why people take something and they have so much baggage and anger and filled into something that they can't hear what's being said. You just say, there's a certain number of illegals. You're a racist. It's like, oh, there's a lot of Jewish people that make movies. You're a Nazi. It's like they flip out. They put intention and apply it. That's not even there. And that is what happens with our shows sometimes. That's why I try not to bring up the voting, elections or anything, which is hard because it's called the Trump Report. It deals with national politics. That's the point of the show. And, we have midterms, we have cycles. And so I'm literally afraid on this show to talk about elections on a show that I thought had something to do. Obviously, we're talking other things, getting off grid, getting away from the system. Wait, let me see. Exactly. And I agree with all of that. But it's not the solution report technically. It's part of it. We don't want to just talk about problems. It is solutions and it's going over the news and all these other things. I get it. But to have a show that deals, world events and, it's politics, as I thought this audience is kind of into, and it deals with it deals with elections and voting. And so when I'm just bringing up, all I said was a prediction of what I think might be happening. But there's no, I'm not, but you apply intention that I'm sitting there giving up all my agency and I'm back to voting and next time we're going to sit there and this, and no one's learned any lesson and what's going on and you're going to give up your rights and you haven't heard a damn thing and you're trying to change my mind or, I mean, you literally, it's like, it's that trigger. It's the same reaction that I see with other groups. And look, and you're my friend. I know you don't, it's not like I take it personal because I know you've been fighting this fight for so long.
Exactly.
No, I know,
Every
but
2
you can't
years,
what
I've run
say.
for office dozens of times.
Right.
Since 1990 to 2010, every 2 years I ran for something. And I'm telling you, I don't think I know. This is manifest. So anytime you bring up vote, oh, it's going to happen, it's going to shift in the mood, and they're going to kind of jump, going, that is how they get you into this. Like it matters. It's a scorecard of, red team, blue team jersey of kind of it's total bullshit.
So
it's
are you
gotten
saying
to the point that even the Olympics have guys boxing women and they still give it, some kind of credibility. Are you fucking nuts?
I'm not for any of that. I mean, look, let me just ask you, are you, and I'm not trying to box you in, I'm trying to make a point. Are you saying, since I'm apparently so wrong and I don't get it and everything else, are you saying that by 2028, the entire country is going to be so red-pilled, or whatever you want to say, that no one's going to vote? Like, no one's going to vote. There's going to be no election, and Congress, and everyone just gets dissolved, and everyone goes off on their own autonomous plot. I mean, maybe that'll happen. I mean, I could be wrong. Is that what you're saying? There's going to be no elections. It's all going to be shut down because no one's going to participate.
No, they're always going to have an election.
All right. Well, then there's going to be an election. And so it's,
why am I in trouble? They need to justify their bullshit.
But if I'm just saying what I think is going to happen in the electorate coming up, that doesn't mean that I'm encouraging it. It doesn't mean that I'm like back to voting 100%, or if at all.
I have to.
I'm just saying it's a point. Why do you get triggered by that? I tell you exactly what I'm saying. If you'll let me. When Ron Paul was running in 8 and 12, they'll go, well, he's going to win. They're going to, man, this is really a movement. It's going to. I'm going. They cannot allow him to win unless it serves their interest, unless it gives them a final grasp on credibility to have any American government. Unless that happens. So there's going to, same thing with UKIP and Farage, same thing. I've seen it over and over. Urbane, in Hungary, they're trying to give him props. Why? Because the European Union and all the countries you're so freaking not allowed. Who the hell is in charge? Now you have Australia going back to coal. You got the German people, they're freaking out. We need more Russian oil and turn on the nukes again and do some coal. It always comes down to necessity. It always comes down to it. All of a sudden, now we had the story. Australia comes up. That 84% alternative power, we took that out. Yeah, we don't want to do that anymore. We changed our mind. Why? Because it doesn't work anymore. Everybody sees it. It's obvious. You dummy. So I'm going, the same thing is happening with voting. We had it in 92 with Ross Perot. I was right in the middle of all that. And what happened is they had to have some steam valve, some alternative, the people get the, and then they jacked that up, threatened his daughter, and whatever the hell went on. And I don't care, because it doesn't matter. That wasn't the point that I was going. At the time, I was advocating, paying attention to my lawsuit against, they have systemically prevented you from having these unless you're a gazillionaire and you get in, and by then they screw with the media and deplatform and whatever the hell was going on there. The internet had just started. We got our first emails. I could see that through the 90s, people were able to express themselves. Oh my God, I've got a new source of information. Can't believe that is on the internet. I mean, that don't mean nothing. ABC didn't say it. Well, as time goes on, you find out who started about that time in the 2000s. Alex Jones and people like that. I started doing my show in 03. Had Charles Goyette here. And what happened? All of a sudden, it's exploding. This libertarian, philosophical, Austrian economic, Ron Paul level, Lushka. Whoa, what the shit? Well, the system wasn't made to emphasize that. The system was not there to support, individuals being free, individuals having their own agency, individuals. No, what you need is an AI agent to do it for you. That's what you need. Oh, yeah, and here's some universal high income. The entire apparatus of government and them spending debt,
them creating money, them inflating the currency, them getting a cut of every transaction. All of that is the goal. And as long as they can keep that going, they're going to. Be it in the form of a stable coin, a CBDC, a central plan of whoever the hell, a threat of nuclear, whatever it is, it goes to them being in charge. And what's going to happen is going to be more like, V for Vendetta. It's going to be somebody is going to, just make fun of them and do whatever, and kind of the people rise up, which is what they were hoping would happen in Iran. Well, did the Iranian people, hate their government more than they hated Israel or the U.S.? Probably not. So this is just all BS. So anything to do with politics is not the same thing as it has related to philosophy. What is your philosophy of your country? What is the promise made to the people? What is it you say you do here? Why are you here? To what purpose? They're going to spend trillions of dollars in the financial crash in 08 and 9. 20 whatever trillion dollars goes to foreign banks and companies and countries and whatever. You could have bought everyone a house. What? Are you freaking stupid? You think this is not going to be in Trump the movie? You think this is not known by the people? You think this isn't understood? It keeps getting worse and worse, to the point that participation is immoral. This is why Christians, weren't for politics back in the 70s. They had this big, giant campaign, Christian Zionism. You got to get involved. Are you born again? During the Reagan election, and here comes the moral majority. And this is why Chuck Baldwin, pastor, Montana now, used to be in Florida, and he went and had prayer breakfast in the White House all that time during the 80s. He's like, nope, we're out. I can see where this is going. Well, this is what's happening. It's manifested into where we are now. And everybody, any 13-year-old kid can get his own AI to, he can ask about whatever. This is one thing right now. They have AI, Anthropic. They're doing all this. No, we're not going to help you kill people. Yeah, well, you're a threat to, national security, and you're not allowed to go. Now, 5 minutes ago we were using you, but now you're a threat because you won't let us kill people with your technology. Wow, really? So we are at a mile marker in human history. We're in the fourth turning. We're in a debt crisis. We're in a debt spiral. We're in the breaking up of alliances around the world. We're in where they're creating new alliances in opposition to this system. Where are the American people going to be? And they go, well, the Democrats are going to win. The guy go, you have no idea. It's so far in the future of that. All the news, all the stuff that come up, I've seen it so many times before, it's all bullshit. It's just whatever they can do to get to the next month, the next primary, all this stuff doesn't matter. And if you do get somebody decent in there, they get Marjorie Taylor Greene or Thomas Massey. Guarantee it. So I am in a position that when we talk about politics, I always relate it to philosophy. What's going to happen philosophically? What makes humanity flourish? What is it that keeps us keeping on? What is it that we're going to pass down to our children? What is it we want them to learn? And taught by whom? They're supposedly supposed to do away with the Department of Education. You got McMahon, Vince McMahon, the guy in charge of the WWE or whatever. His wife is in there supposedly dismantling it and putting it back, to local and the states and not federal. So I'm like, all right, well, you can't do that fast enough. So all of it comes down to vote numbers, and then they'll be on CNN and they'll start showing colors and counties and numbers, and all that is total bullshit, and I don't care. And it doesn't matter. So we are looking at an entire shift, economically, militarily, socially, spiritually in this country. And it is going to be based on what I keep telling people. It's going to be a food thing. And I remember during Daddy Bush's administration, they're going, it's the economy, stupid. And we were hammering that. We were doing, going, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. Well, now it's the economy, stupid. So much so, it's going to be a food thing, stupid. An energy thing, stupid. It's going to be not a vote thing. It's going to be, it doesn't matter who gets in charge of. It doesn't matter who, in the position. It doesn't matter who has the shiny badge. It doesn't matter. The people are going to survive and thrive just like they did through the lockdown and COVID in New Hampshire. The Free State Project, all of a sudden they came together and took care of business, and they had plenty of meat and social and alternative currencies. And this morning we went on about local silver mint and 10th ounce rounds that they're making, and our promotion of that, and silver and Xano and freedom cryptos that are private. That's where it's going. But you have to have a place. You have to have a place to breathe, a place to be, a place to whatever. So what happens? I go as far as I can and then get a letter from the U.S. Department of the Army. Hey, we used to have that on our map of we did something, so we were going to something. I'm like, whatever,
Make sure to frame that. Put it up in your bus. You should frame it.
I'm keeping it. I mean, it has some interesting commentary here. Now, it was in English and Spanish, and it has a flyer with a map and all that. And Donna, like, what is this? I have no idea. And it goes, this letter advises you that the property listed above is located on property that has been identified as being eligible under the Department of Defense's formerly used defense sites environmental restoration program. The formerly used defense sites property name and project property identification number are blah 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 here. Congress established the Department of Defense's formerly used defense sites program as part of the Defense Environmental Restoration Program. So in case they messed up something or whatever, the Department of Defense has assigned the Army responsibility for the formerly used defensive sites program, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers executes this program on behalf of the Army, blah, blah, blah. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is responsible for identifying, investigating, and when necessary, conducting an appropriate response to address such contamination or military munitions at approximately 5,400 formerly used defensive sites across the country. So then they go on and go on and go on and go on and go on. But investigating, I got that United States Department of the Army let me know that if they want to, they can come investigate. I'm like, yep, well, there's that. So it's entertainment for me, but it's just, you can't get far enough away. And I went a little bit too far by a few hundred yards that I'm now in that. So how many of those have to happen to just people like me, families? You kind of go, what is it you say you do here? What is it? Wow. In defense of my freedoms, you're going to use this property in defense of my freedoms? Then, the incursion on my property? It's just, and I'm sure it's not really anything to worry about until it is, but it just makes you go, what the shit? So that's why I feel elections have diminished in the minds of the people to the point that they won't even vote for a change of the other side. They're going to abandon the process. And I'll turn it over to you, and then we got to wrap up. What happened in 1990, when I first started doing all this stuff, there was an election between Evan Mecham, a Mormon, conservative, Republican. The establishment did not want him. Then there was a Democrat running, whatever. there was one guy that ran a write-in campaign for governor as a pro-life candidate. The campaign, I think it was Terry Goddard and Fife Symington is what I remember. So you had the race between the Republican and Democrat, and it was neck and neck. It was 49 point whatever to 49 point whatever. Well, the election before, they had a third of Meekum won by a third or something like that. You know, somebody had won by a third of the vote. Well, he didn't have a majority because there was, you know, somebody in there. So we gotta change the law. We're going to change the law that you have to have a majority. We have to have a runoff, fine, but we can't have this 36% thing of somebody getting governor and split it up at, you know, we don't like it. For whatever reason, they don't like it. So they changed the law for it had to be 50% plus one. They had the election in 1990, and this write-in candidate got like 10,000 votes. Well, that was enough to keep it below 50% for either the other two guys. So they had to have another special election. So a month or two, whatever, they had another election. When they had that election, the write-in guy wasn't on there. It was just the two Republican and the Democrat. And they had the election, and there was nothing else on the ballot. No initiatives, no other race. It was just a gazillion-dollar election for governor. That was it. Well, 1990, my election, that gave me standing for my lawsuit, so I'm paying attention to all this stuff and so on and keeping track. Well, what happened was the write-in candidate, to throw it into a special election runoff, he had 10,000. Now, they changed it after this. They didn't like it none too much. They went back to the other way because whatever. It served their purposes to keep their mentally brain damaged. But what they had was this election with only those two candidates on. The previous election that had the write-in guy, there was 10,000 people that didn't vote for either one, and they put the write-in candidate through it in the special election. They had the special election. It's just between the two, and what was the question that I was interested in? How many people went, showed their voter ID or not or whatever, to vote and didn't cast a ballot for the Republican or the Democrat? It was almost 15,000 people. 15,000 people went to the election for the runoff for governor and didn't vote for either one. 50% more than what I had wrote in before. And I go, you know, this is answering your question. You know, what are the voters going to do? Who are they going to vote for? What if they went, registered that they were going to vote, and didn't vote, times 15,000? And that was 1990. What's it now? What kind of faith did they have in the system now? Are they going to show up and not vote for anybody? Are they just not going to show up? But to think that that mentality, that opposition to the whole process in general hasn't been building since 1990, I don't think I know. And that became part of my lawsuit and summary judgment, going, you know, kind of showing the whatever. So this is how I see it coming. It is going to be a repudiation of the entire system. Silver dime cards, 10th ounce silver, private cryptos, alternative markets, decentralized storage of data, retrieving of data, private emails, the abandonment of the grid. Not to get off the grid, be above the grid. And it is going to manifest itself more and more of people go, you know, I'm tired of worrying about it. The stress of even having an opinion, making a decision, being part, you know, none of y'all, I have anything that I want, and I'm just moving, going to the mountains, going to another country. That's another thing. A lot of people are leaving, or they're moving from California and New York to wherever. So people are doing it right, not later. How will that manifest itself? Australia, you have to vote. If you don't vote, you get taxed more. You get, you know, your weenie whacked. You get something. You're not allowed to something. You must participate. Yugoslavia, when that war was going on, the breakup of Yugoslavia into Croatia and Serbia, and this is where Liberland came from. They had a piece of land nobody claimed, and they go, oh, well, we'll do it. A bunch of libertarians, they're there now. So when you had the breakup of Yugoslavia and they had a vote, the Serbians were, killing everybody. I mean, it was war and all kinds of crap was going on. Clinton administration bombing people. We got involved in that for whatever reason. They had an election, and they go, it turned out the way we didn't want it to. You elected the wrong. You did it wrong. So what did they do? They made the allegation that too few people voted. You couldn't get a mandate. There wasn't enough people that voted, so we're just going to cancel this election and do it over. And I don't know what happened after that because it doesn't matter. But the percentage they set at like 35%, they needed at least 35, 40, whatever it was they set, was more than what participated in the U.S. election at the time. I'm going, so is our elections null and void? Because you didn't meet your criteria for Yugoslavia. So it's all bullshit. Every single time, every scratch of the surface, it doesn't matter, and I don't care. Because there's nothing to care about, and it really, truly does not matter, or they wouldn't have invaded Iran to begin with. He got elected on this subject. People made it very clear. They were voicing it against. And then what? In that New York Times, I'll end with this, that New York Times article has a paragraph. Tucker Carlson, the commentator who had emerged as another prominent skeptic of intervention on the right, had come to the Oval Office several times over the previous year to warn Mr. Trump that a war with Iran would destroy his presidency. A couple of weeks before the war began, Mr. Trump, who had known Mr. Carlson for years, tried to reassure him over the phone. I know you're worried about it, but it's going to be okay, the president said. Mr. Carlson asked how he knew. Because it always is, Mr. Trump replied. And that's it. We'll just, we'll muddle through. It's all good. No philosophy. Yeah, I promised and I said, but I lied. It doesn't matter. And I'm way past caring. All right, wrap it up.
Yeah, you certainly sound like you don't care. Well, thanks. So, I do want to comment on that a bit. It won't be too long. And then when I'm done that, since I appreciate you giving me the last word on it, but I do want to switch at the very end, just talk about something very good and beautiful about the Artemis voyage, something that you probably didn't know happened. I want to share it with the audience.
I know the toilet overflow. You go into the bathroom and you get freckled.
I didn't know that. Well, I land on Artemis, something good, so both our blood pressures go down, and half the audience, perhaps. So as far as with the voting, or at least where this, not just voting, but just the process, most of what you're talking about, I agree with. I mean, it's not I disagree. It's almost like you have two dudes, and they're sitting by the dock, and there's like a storm front, and the waves are getting bigger and bigger, and they're about to hit a beach house, that you can tell is not going to survive the hurricane. And you're sitting there and you're watching wave after wave starting to hit this house, and
get out of the house,
falling off. And it's like, and the Ernie guy is going, the next wave is going to take it down. It's going to go down. It's like, and, maybe I'm sitting there going, I think it's going to take a few more licks before it goes down. It doesn't mean that we're disagreeing on the thing, the house having issues, or maybe it might collapse or something. It's just, it's just the process of watching history unfold. That's it.
Yeah, so but then you're sitting there voting on whether you should fix the foundation or not.
Well, that doesn't mean it's me. I'm just saying this is how the process goes. I mean, I'm not going to judge Mother Nature and God over the waves, and the waves did it wrong. It's a process. I look at humanity. This is why I don't go into it, but culture, sociology. I look at humanity as like waves, like frequencies. It's fascinating to me, and I know it kind of irritates Ernie with it, but I've always been involved. Matter of fact, I gave up becoming a sociologist an anthropology major to go into medicine. That was actually what I was going to go with. It would have made Ernie a lot happier because I never would have come to Arizona and drove him crazy.
Oh, the archaeology and anthropology and history is all bullshit too.
Jeez. We'll save that for another show. But anyway, but I'm just sitting there. I'm looking at, it's like education. If you want to get out of, I came from the streets of Philly. It was a hard struggle for myself and many of us. We have our own stories. But a lot of it, they also talk about education. It's what you don't know. It's knowing what you don't even know that you don't know. I mean, topics about how to invest or compound interest or the Federal Reserve, or it could be about women, all kinds of topics, things that you don't. And the more that you know, the more experiences you have, the more you get to see how the world works. So one of the reasons I work really hard with my daughter to just give her as many experiences that I'm able to, just to know what's out there, even things that are not fruitful, even things she hates. My grandfather, Pop, used to say, try anything once, twice if you like it. And and so I think we all understand that concept. So to me, it's the education process of Americans, or you could say humanity at this point. How many people, I still get shocked when I watch a podcast and I hear them talk about the Federal Reserve, like they're talking about the weather. And then here's our commercial break. Here's gold. And did you know that the Federal Reserve is pretty much blah, 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 blah. I'm sitting there. Back in my day, I didn't go to the John Burke Society to even hear anything. The Federal what? The only person I ever heard it from was Irv Homer, and they tried to kick him off the radio like Charles Goyette, for God's sake. So, we are in such a different world, and we've covered this on the show about medicine, about trust in medicine, about just everything, including the voting process itself. We've seen that, the 2020 election, and people on both sides, they're all seeing it, and a lot of it is with the internet. So unless they clamp down on the internet, which is a whole nother, that's the line we're going to get to, and I'm going to explain that point with a very good Matrix analogy you will like. But it's like, all these examples, people are waking up to the fact that they don't have agency in their own life, that their vote doesn't matter, or their opinion doesn't matter, or however you want to look at it. The system doesn't matter. The Department of Justice is, we're sitting there watching, the guy shoots the president. We know nothing about it. We've got the Epstein people completely let go. And like you have on Freedom's Phoenix, a person helping people with cryptocurrencies in jail. He's riding around in prison, and yet the Epstein people are still walking around doing whatever they're doing. We could go all day. This audience doesn't have to be explained, but we get it. But most of our friends and relatives are figuring it out. I have coworkers, some doctors in my office, who came to my office and into my room, and they were asking, Frank, what's your take on what's going on with the world? Because we don't normally talk politics at work, but they're coming to me about it. And then they're talking about the elections, and they're saying, I'm starting to think, I don't even know if I'm going to vote. I don't think your vote even matters, And I'm sitting there smiling, this is coming out organically. People, just like you're talking about, it's happening. Absolutely, they're coming to that term. What I was trying to mention about the upcoming election, which even you agree we're probably going to have one. I know it's going to drive you crazy, but you even have half, at least, of the Republican Party, I think even more at this point, who are not following Trump. They're completely off the train. And half of, that 60% of them, and that group, I'm watching them right now on these podcasts and discussion groups about what to do for the next election. Do you vote? And, do you just say, well, we can't have a Democrat in there, in which I know just will even make my blood pressure go up. Do you vote Democrat as a protest vote? Or do you just not vote, right? I know what your answer is personally, Ernie, and I know what my answer would be. I'm just saying factually, this is what people are talking about. So to have at least a third...
Let's run vote for somebody to rule me.
So to have at least a third of Republicans, or whatever they are now, people don't even know what they identify. They don't even want to identify as anything. But to put for a third, roughly, to be talking about not voting, that's the war with Nick Fuentes. He's saying vote Democrat just to shove it up their butt and flush the system. And then you'll see the Democrats be even worse. And then people will then repel from them, which means they'll really figure out that voting for anyone is not a problem.
Oh my God, they might repel from voting.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, again, it's a process. It's like how many waves to knock this thing down. And I don't mean destroy America. I'm not saying I want the destruction of my country for anyone listening. That's not what I'm saying. It's just whatever this change in people having their own country back or having their own rights realized.
Yeah, we got our own country. Is it my country?
Bill of Rights.
Is that what we got, Frank?
Yeah. Well,
we got a country. Is that
a Bill of Rights, as I'm bringing up here, if you're hearing me. So this to me it's a process of learning and people figuring this out more and more. And since we started the show, I just can speak for myself about how many people around me have gone through a journey and you could say an enlightenment or awakening. I don't want to be too over the top with it, but it is. I mean, where I can use my own mother. I mean, it's shocking. My mother was just the most, Mrs. Cleaver, grew up in Eisenhower America, and no one would lie, and Israel's our friend, and just right down the line of just the standard American lapping up regular news media propaganda from whatever side. And she is a completely different person. And my mother does not try to be political. And that's not because of me. I mean, she's back in Pennsylvania. But in her orbit of just being a senior citizen, and she's not even watching Fox, and it's not because of me. So I'm watching this organically happen, and it's a wonderful thing. And the question is, can the system control it or not? I mean, any animal, cornered animal, is going to lash out, which gets back to how many waves until the thing goes. And I don't know. And my thinking is like Ernie, and I don't want to put words in your mouth on this one. And like you said, freedom always wins in the end. Get it. I completely agree. But, you have maybe in Ernie's optimistic view, which I think, well, maybe you haven't said
it's
this.
going to get messy first.
Okay, all right. Well, we agree on that one. And is that will people suddenly just stop voting this next time? I mean, maybe things can get so bad where 80-90% of Americans say I'm done. It's very possible. I mean, political time, especially with this administration where we're going through, anything's possible. Clearly, I already gave my prediction because I think America, and just remember, I'm just saying what I think is going to happen, not what I'm not changing your mind or anything. Just what I think. I feel like there's a few more licks at the building before enough people, the 100th monkey gets it enough. Okay, I know everyone's questioning it, and they're all, they're turning on the love of the trust of the nation, I should say, of the government. But I feel like what my prediction was trying to bring up is where does this distrust and anger from both the Obama, the Trump administrations, where does it get refocused? I know for you, it's like, how do you not see the refocusing? It's like, don't vote, just turn away because you don't empower it, and you haven't learned and you must have learned your lesson by now, people, haven't you? Well, I think people are going to go for one last hurrah, or maybe a couple, which would be, okay, well, let's get rid of both parties and have a third party, because we haven't had one. I mean, Ross Perot tried, and they kicked him out. The Libertarians have tried. The Green Party's tried. There was another party, I forget the name of it, this last election. There was another green-ish type party that they tried to get up, and they got slammed from all the ballot access laws. And I loved it because more and more normie young people, and a much larger scale than the Libertarian Party, God bless them, are starting to see why there are no third parties, why there's no other voices out there, which is really a manifestation or a testimony to how, your vote doesn't matter, right? Because they control everything, which means both parties have been controlled this whole time, which means your vote has been hollow this whole time. This is a realization that people are starting to get to. And just like you said, if you want to go be a precinct committeeman for Dr. Ron Paul, go at it. Because like you said, it's not going to happen, but you're going to learn. You're going to learn how the system works or doesn't work. And that was very
wise. And you had RFK Jr. and what's her name is the VP, which was Bryn's ex-wife, that's filthy, stinking, freaking got enough money rich, and they ran up against this even then.
Yeah,
and
that
we
was
knew
it.
when they were starting, I'm going, you guys have no idea what you're going up against.
Right. Exactly. And you see a lot of these Don Quixote people who had no clue how the system's been on autopilot, and they've been participant of it, or they've been a sucker for it this entire time and didn't realize. They would complain, oh, it's just Tweedledee and Tweedledum. How come there's no one else good to run? And then they vote for the same two parties. I mean, it's maddening. But now we're at a point where when people are so angry and disillusioned at both, quote, parties, not to mention the system that they control, they're probably willing finally to entertain a third party. Because most normies, they say, we can't have a third party. There's only enough room for two parties on the debate stage, and my head would damn explode. But now people are at that point willing to that. And a party of young people. Finally, young people usually don't get involved in politics. Now the youth are really involved. The baby boomers are dying off, and you've got money from young people, from all the Silicon Valley people, maybe Bitcoin people. It's like a different, forgetting Peter Thiel, that's another story. But it's a different movement where I can see younger people who've been stuck holding the bag with the debt and all of these problems saying, we're going to do it our way. We're going to give our side a shot at it and just have our own party that we're going to manage who's in there, and no APAC money and no this and no that, or whatever it is that they think that, and then try it that way. Now, I already know, Ernie's view, and a lot of us here, is like, well, see how that's going to work out for you. I get that. I'm not trying to debate that point. I'm just saying that is where I think the energy will go, as a few more laps on the beach house, and then see what happens. Is there a chance it could work? Yeah, there's anything's got a possibility. Also, if they do win as a third party, it'll probably be co-opted pretty quick, or be attempted to, by deep state one way or the other. We saw what happened to Trump. That very likely can happen or will happen. Or probably most likely, they won't even be allowed to win or be on the ballot because of all the ballot access things that we all have seen firsthand. And then either way, that's another wake-up call to the people saying, you see, you got your guy in, and it's still Trump 3.0 at this point. Or, you see, you're doing it legit, you're doing it by the rules, and now you see why you've never had a choice, because of the ballot access. Either way, it's the education and maybe the last wake-up call where there's nowhere else to go at that point. Hence, it doesn't matter, or they throw their hands up, or they don't vote, or they walk away, and all the things you're talking about. I'm just saying, I think it's going to take just a little bit longer, from my sense of the people and the normies out there that you're probably not around as much, but that's fair, keeps your blood pressure down. So I'm gonna just mention a movie reference, then I'm gonna talk about Artemis. The quick movie reference is, it's like how much, in order to get to that freedom, how do we get there? Maybe on the best solution is people throw their hands up after this midterms, and then by 2028, everyone stops voting and everyone just is independent, and everyone does their own thing. Maybe that happens. The other is, you've got the Bob Anderson version, which is 1,000 years of darkness, and hopefully it won't be 1,000 years. But I think, it reminds me of the end of the Matrix, with Matrix Revolutions, right? That was the last one, I believe. And in Matrix Revolutions, where you have, the good and the bad, the yin and the yang, right? Agent Smith versus Neo. And they're both powerful, and they're going at it, and they're going at it, and they're going at it. And it's just like that's called the Brawly Brawl, the Burly Brawl it was called. And it just went on and on. Remember that last ending, and they're in the rain, the chubby rain coming down, and they're just blowing everything up.
Why do you persist, Mr. Anderson? Why do you continue when you know you're going to lose? Because I choose to.
Right. You choose to. And then, but then what happens is, Neo finally realizes that, in a sense, he keeps fighting, and it's a constant opposition. And what he does is he succumbs. He says, all right, fine. I know the way out of this is through. Sometimes going out is through, right? So he allows it to consume him. He gets all dark, and then, bam, and then the revolution occurs. But constantly fighting it on their terms doesn't work. And so I'm just using that as an example potentially of maybe it's going to take, let's say a third party comes or whatever, they try it again, and of course you're just losing your mind, like, you people haven't learned a damn thing. But finally, then you try something else. The system says, oh, you guys are really trying to push back. We're now going to take over. And then all of a sudden Palantir, it's like President Palantir, and the whole thing gets shut down. The internet's shut down. The whole, it turns into the Bob's, darkness years. And maybe that's what it takes. It takes the people to keep trying to do it by the old style. And it has to be completely co-opted to really see it. Well, they say it's like alcoholics. You have to hit rock bottom. And maybe that's what it is.
Wait a minute. You mean you people don't want us to rule you? You mean you don't want us to control the money and get a cut? You mean oh, well, hell, all you had to do is tell us, we'll not do that anymore. Right.
So I think we're kind of on the same page. I'm just trying to point out, just using examples of how I see it. It's not, when I talk
who
factually,
really did a good job of this was Ayn Rand, coming out of the Soviet Union, coming to the U.S., and she wanted to, that's why she wrote the books and did screenplays and had Hollywood movies, The Fountainhead with, what was it, Gary Cooper or whatever. You have a lot of these movies, We Living, Anthem, Atlas Shrugged, whatever. And the point that she was making is it's a character thing. It is, the goal that you say you want, what you're advocating, what you've been conned into, is what's killing you. And all it takes is for the people to just, nah, I'm good. The productive. Who is John Galt? Well, he was a guy that created a static electricity machine of we don't have to worry about electricity anymore, and he was not going to give it to this generation of scumbags if he knew what was going to happen. Nope. We're taking this. We're going up in the mountains and the Colorado Canyon to bite me, and just let it fall. Atlas got tired of holding up the earth, so he shrugged. He just shrugged it. Atlas shrugged. He just said, nah, I'm good. Let it go. At the end of the book and the movie, the first of the 3-part movie I thought was pretty good. You go watch Atlas Shrugged, the first part, and you'll get it. It was what's happening now. What has to happen now, stop supporting the beast that is devouring you.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't realize Australia made you vote. That I didn't know. Yeah, can you imagine, audience? They pass the law and they force Ernie to vote. That would be funny. You can add that to your Army note. All right, so let's just end. I want to end on a good note here. Ernest and Donna and my family, we had a very beautiful time a couple years ago. We saw the eclipse, and still a memorable time. And I still have it etched in my head when I got to see that solar flare. I didn't see it the first eclipse, but the second one with my binoculars, and it's just etched. I really tried to etch it in my memory, and it was just profoundly beautiful, magnificent. But there's like beyond words, especially seeing it so close. I was prepared for it. Well, anyway, the Artemis 2 was coming back. It did its circle around the moon. I'm sure some of you may have seen some pictures. They did upload some pictures from the Artemis. Technically, they renamed it the Integrity is the name of the craft. So you can see some of them on NASA and NASA's site, and we'll have more images later. There's an interesting comparison from the 1972 moonrise picture, Earthrise picture, to the one that was just taken. So that was interesting. You can see side by side, for what it's worth. But anyway, I was watching it live, and they went around the moon, and I was sitting with my daughter and, making a little historic for her. And she was very, she was fascinated, and we're listening to the communications and everything. And they go around the moon, and then they're leaving, and then they're about maybe half an hour from the moon as they left. A half an hour. And then they start talking, the NASA control people were talking about that they were going to do an reorientation for a solar eclipse. And I'm like, what? I didn't hear about this. I don't know if you heard about it, but it wasn't even talked about. Well, it turns out that because of the orientation of the craft and the moon and everything, no Apollo mission has ever run into this. is that the sun would be completely behind the moon, like the sun was going to transverse through the moon, and the craft would be right in a position to see a solar eclipse from the moon. And it's never happened in human history ever. And I was gobsmacked to even hear about that this was going to happen. Yeah, within like 20 minutes. So they had to turn the craft around because usually the craft is aiming towards Earth. But because this was so historic, they had to change the solar panels so they could recharge up enough extra sunlight for energy because they're going to be out of sun for like half an hour, a half an hour long eclipse. When Ernie and I were there, how long was it, like 3 minutes? It was a long one for us. It was like 3 minutes or 2.5 minutes or something was the eclipse.
It was a long time. It was more than that, I think.
Yeah, it was. The first one for me was shorter. This one is maybe like, I think it was like 3 minutes or something like that. But anyway, this is going to be half an hour. I'm thinking a half an hour eclipse to just sit back and bask in it is unheard of. So anyway, it starts the eclipse, and you can't really see much. I cannot wait for the professional photos to come out. But you were just seeing it live through bad res TV. But you can get a sense how the sun was started to go behind the moon at like the 4 or 5 o'clock position, and you saw this flare of the light of the corona. Instead of around the entire moon that we see from Earth, it was shooting out like a huge geyser from the moon. And then it went behind the moon, and the entire moon had this glow behind it. And I just wanted to tell you what the astronauts were trying to explain. They were almost crying on the radio. It was kind of pretty profound to hear them talk. The one astronaut said they kept asking for his response, and then he finally came back and he said, "This is a sight that I don't believe human beings have evolved through evolution to be able to witness." In other words, it's never happened on Earth. It's like we've never seen something ever. No human has ever seen what they were just witnessing. And just the sight of the entire moon back glowed with this corona, like, the glow. He said it's two other things about it is that when you see the eclipse from Earth, the moon is completely black. Like you can't see the moon because you see the corona around it, right? But in this case, you had the same situation, except you had Earth light because so much sun was hitting the Earth and the reflected light from the Earth was hitting the moon, is that you could see this very interesting gray glow where the moon had a very eerie glow from the Earth with this whole corona backlit of the sun. And on top of that is that because of the corona pushing out, is that the space, of course, space is pitch black, but because of this light, there was like a midnight blue, almost ocean blue haze that was circling around the sun where you could still see stars through. Almost like you were on Earth looking up at the sky, dark, it's getting dark, the crepuscular time, twilight. You're looking up and you see that kind of bluish purple haze, and it's all around the moon, with the glow and the corona, and then it's the Earth lights lighting up the moon. And these astronauts who are technical people were trying to explain to NASA what they were seeing. And I could just hear, not to overdo the word, the profundity of what they were trying to bring through. And it was just, how much I've been moved with the solar eclipse. It was just beyond momentous. And I'm sitting there going, no one even knows, most people don't even know the moonshot's happening. That's a whole nother story. And we're in the middle of World War III and Trump and this and that. And not to mention, we've been to the moon. People are thinking it's not a big deal, and that's fine. But that happened. It was the first time in human history. And I would give anything for that moment to be there in that craft, to see that sight. And I just hope to God that they have good enough photography. Because as Ernie knows, no picture of a real eclipse ever captures the actual eclipse. A picture cannot do justice to the real thing. It just can't, just because of the way the photons hit it, and you just can't. But so there's no way but at least I'll have a sense of it. But I'm so honored that some other human beings got to see that. Anyway, sorry for going long, but it was thought you'd appreciate it.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I did get before we end, I wanted to, do the background on compulsory voting. You know, your favorite.
Oh,
You want to go? You want to move to Australia?
I thought audience, we almost got out of there with a good note.
The Commonwealth Electoral Act of 1918 states it shall be the duty of every elector to vote at each election. Under the Electoral Act, the actual duty of the elector is to. Now, what happens is people since 1926, 1970, 71, 74, 74 again, 81, what happened was people had shouted, screw you, and they would go in, yep, I'm here, yep, give me, okay, I showed up, I ain't voting, I don't care, and leave. Nope, not good enough. You're not, worshiping at the altar the way we want you to. So the law went on to do this. Under the Electoral Act, this is Australia, the actual duty of the elector is to attend a polling place, have their name marked off the certified list, receive a ballot paper, take it to an individual voting booth, mark it, fold the ballot paper, and place it in the ballot box. You got to do all that. You're doing it wrong. You can't just show up. You can't just go in and have them mark up. Nope, you got to take it, go over to that voting booth, mark it, and put it into the ballot box. Slave. The Jones Plantation, you see the artwork on freedomsphoenix.com, a banner ad that goes to a movie that's based on Larkin Rose's short story about this very thing. Oh, we're going to free the slaves. On this plantation, you guys are free, and you're going to vote for your new massa. You get to vote for your master. It's all good. You get to vote for your master. Which is exactly what somebody, the co-host on this show, is advocating.
That's right, Master. Vote for the next whip. That's right.
I get to pick my massa. So this is the point that, Larkin was saying. But this is, once I found out that this is the law, and then they have, opposition and people against it, and we got to change it and whatever. I don't know where it is now. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Hey, Ernie, I'm curious, what would be, and maybe I'm probably blatantly missing this, but what would be the incentive? Because if you force someone to do something they don't want to do, they would just vote the other side or vote for the worst of, just to screw around. I mean, what would the government would like that? I mean, what would be the purpose to force you?
Hell if I know. You totally agree. Why do you got totally agree check marks on every freaking app or everything or every? You go into any government thing by clicking next to get to this whatever taxpayer-funded thing and information that we did. By clicking next, you totally agree to abide by whatever the hell the government says you got to abide by. Do you really want this information, your taxpayer money funded? Do you? Well, you got to totally agree to be a slave to get it. It's this attitude. And we just told, that's why it was great when they did the South Park episode, of Human Centipede. You totally agreed to have your lips sewed to somebody else's butt and be a single gastrointestinal. Whatever.
Yeah, that was a good
totally
one.
agreed. You agreed. Every week there's a new change in the whatever. And that is one thing that, fortunately, there are some people, if you care, you go up and they do an AI comparison or just a text comparison between what the agreement was last week and what it is now, and it changes constantly. So you go, oh, they changed this. Oh, they added this. Oh, they're doing that. You go, yeah, whatever. I totally agree. And by the end, you're just blind and numb to it. Well, I'm not totally agreeing anymore. And if I do, whatever. But voting, no, it's a ritual. It's a worship. It's going to church and confessing your sin. It's going to the priest. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I went and voted. So this is why it's all a psyop. That's the point that I'm making. They are creating us to take away our sense of awe and wonder, like the eclipse from space. All the other things that are really matter. You know, a newborn smile. There's so many things that emphasize what it is to be human, what it is to be an add to your community, what it is that sustains your life, your liberty, your property. There's so much more to this that we're being served up, and it's all contingent on somebody else making a decision and stealing our money to do it. Hell, they don't even need it. They just indebt us. This is not sustainable. It never was. To the tune of $40 trillion. Take a look at what do you think? As I get my phone, we'll end on this. What do you think the average price of a home in America? I mean, it's gone stupid. Let's say $500,000. That'll get you, a nice house with a pool and whatever. So it's just a round number, $500,000. Let's do $500,000. So I go $500,000 home. Now we're $40 trillion in debt. Let's just do the TARP. That was 23 million. Let's say $20 trillion. They just took. Man, we'll just take it. So 20 trillion. Let's do the math here. I don't know if this will even go up that big a number. 1, 2, 3, see, there's 220. All right, $20 trillion divided by 500,000. 40 million houses. 40 million houses. 40 million. I don't know that we got a homeless problem. We got a government problem. That's what we got. So this is, and that's just 20 trillion that they did that one time during the TARP years. Then, what if it's 40 trillion? What if the hell it's just this war? What if this is not sustainable just by math, just by opinion, just by what do you say you do here? This is, people have not been paying attention. They don't understand. They don't care. Until they do, and it becomes a food thing. So all these numbers, all this stuff is going to come. The roosters are coming home to roost. And while we got this elective war with Iran to benefit the criminal Bibi Netanyahu and what he's got problems going on. So how am I supposed to give a shit about midterm elections? How does that even rise up to I give a crap? I mean, all I redo this show so I can say I don't give a crap. Bunch of times. Well, thanks for coming on. Hopefully, how long did we go? 3 hours, 41 minutes. So it was a short
2 hours and 40 minutes. Heard you say I don't give a crap about voting.
It needs to be said.
I know. You got to get it out. I get it. I'm not disagreeing with you. But there we go. I enjoyed the show. At least we survived. The world survived somewhat over these crazy tweets, and we didn't even get into. Probably don't even care, but about should Trump even be 25th Amendment? I mean, he lost his mind. I mean, threatening genocide.
Compared to which president? I mean, they've said all this stuff. We don't like Orange Man bad, and then I'm going compared to what?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, what's your the next worst guy? What's a better person? Really?
Well, it's just that we've ratcheted it up to another level where, hell, I mean, I was going to drop the F-bomb on your show, and then you can't yell at me about it because, or even the FCC, because the President of the United States is tweeting it. I mean, he's like tweeting it to the world. That's like, and what, I can't utter what the president has said. The FCC is going to give me a fine. This, even though I know we're a little different on Freedom's Phoenix here, but no, I just mean, it's a ratcheting of a different level. And the irony is that last week, Ernie Ernie did the reading, read the statement from the Iranian leader, president, whoever is in charge right now, and it was it was very civil, you know. I mean, it was, yeah, obviously a little propaganda from their point of view, but you know, they're like, you know, he sounds like a leader. It was what, 2 pages, and it was well thought out and articulate and making his
True.
position, and yeah, and true part of it. And then and then Donald Trump is like, "You effing bastards, and we're gonna blow you the stone." I mean, who's like and we're the good guys, right? Like, just imagine if Vladimir Putin spoke like that. What Trump just did. I mean,
I remember when Reagan was president, and he would address the nation, which a lot of times he did to get people behind whatever the hell it was he was going to do. It's Morning in America, and he would have the block. It would be CBS, NBC, ABC, PBS, whatever, and then CNN got included, or HBO, whatever. And they put it up there, and President Reagan's going to address the nation. As they were prepping and making sure the satellite signal was working and the networks got it and everything, goes, missiles launched, details at 11, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, of course, the Soviets were listening in. You know, they're like, whoa, what? Bedtime for Brezhnev. They used to have this, it was an old movie, Reagan, when he was an actor, Bedtime for Bonzo, which was a chimpanzee. It was a black and white movie, the 50s, whatever. And they go, oh, Bedtime for Brezhnev. And he made this kind of, you know, this blustering that they would do like this Trump thing. Well, when they do that, it gave them the idea that Reagan was not necessarily hinged up, man. You know, they're like, you know, he's a cowboy. He's unpredictable. He's, you know, so that gave him some fear that he was, you know, he could be crazy. We gotta be careful dealing with this crazy man. And I remember the Soviet premiers, the leaders, they went through like 4 or 5 of them during that time or something. There was one after another, and it was so that has some strategic, if not tactical, advantage where Trump is seen as crazy. He could do crazy. He's a crazy man. He could, you know, they keep going this taco thing. I don't think he tacos enough. You know, he threatens to do stuff and then he, you know, does stuff. But I'm. What does that benefit us? Does that play into this negotiation? Is that part? I have no idea. And I don't care, and it doesn't matter. So this is why all that stuff is just noise. And it's just, what are they going to do to people that don't show up, that don't participate, that go silent? They go on the land. They focus on their community. They go all Amish on their ass. Well, if they ignore all of their what you can and can't grow and how you can do it, where you can sell, oh my God, they're fixing their own John Deere tractors. Oh my God, they cut out all the electronics on their damn car, put a Chevy small block in it, and said, "Kiss my ass, I'm not doing your crap anymore." They're buying 1969 Chevy pickups and going, "Suck it." They're putting everything on diesel and taking out the electronics. Don't give a crap about your EMP. What if they're... That's what's happening. And they got desktop manufacturing, publishing. People are sharing on the internet, bypassing their stuff. They are counting on your participation in your total agreement. What happens when people just, nope, and my children are not yours? It may take a village to con my kids, but... you know, that village is not getting hold of my child. This is what's coming. It's already happening. It's already being done. How those are going to thwart that, any effort they have to go after you, and they keep passing laws like this Australian thing. Well, not only do you got to show up, you got to take the piece of paper and walk over there, put a pen in your hand, mark stuff on it, and put it in this box. You got to do that. You got to do that. How do you see government like that? It's just farcical. It's stupid. Government's stupid. We can leave it on that. Another Trump report. Dr. Frank Tambury. Talk to you later, Frank. Peace.
Peace.